My destined one is a peerless protagonist. One day, he'll descend wearing golden armor, riding a seven-colored cloud, and in front of everyone, come kill me. The primordial heartlands is a world ruled by martial cultivation. Legend says that in ancient times, a mysterious force split this realm into 5 great continents. In the western region of the eastern continent, the ancient superpower known as the true martial sacred ground dominates thousands of miles of land. Within the true martial sacred ground, white cranes cry in unison, auspicious clouds descend, and spirit springs surge to the sky like vast oceans. Cultivators fly on swords, disappearing 10,000 miles in an instant. Mighty warriors throw punches, shattering black iron martial stone into fragments with one blow. South Goose Peak sits at the very heart of the true martial sacred ground. The mountain soars thousands of meters like a tower, piercing into the clouds. At its summit, white clouds drift, mist coils and curls. Zimmo stood at the cliff's edge, dressed in white robes finer than snow. His loose hair fluttered in the wind, and his deep eyes seemed bottomless. He stood alone, his thin figure unmoving as the wind made his robes snap and rustle. So, this counts as rebirth, Zimmo muttered in shock. He stayed silent for 3 minutes, then 3 more. Isn't rebirth supposed to be a protagonist's thing? But damn it, I'm the villain in this story. Zimmo checked his body. This wasn't full reincarnation, it was a soul transmigration. This body was so weak it was almost pitiful. He was sure he'd return to when he was 15, right before starting cultivation. But this time he didn't come back with just memories. Inside his abdomen, a primordial sphere forged by the laws of the universe floated quietly. It gave off no light and looked plain and unremarkable on the surface. But if one looked closer, they'd find an entire world within. Radiant light, grass and morning dew, a rising sun. The sphere constantly shifted. Even the tiniest trace of its power felt like it could level the mountain beneath him. Zimmo sensed something familiar from it. Suddenly, his eyes widened in realization. This sphere, he'd accidentally found it in his past life. He never figured out its full purpose, only that it had a special ability. It could tear through space. He remembered the day he was defeated. He had poured all his God Meridian realm power into the sphere in an attempt to escape. Instead, it brought him back to this moment in time. That was why it felt familiar. The energy within it was his own cultivation from the previous life. He trembled with excitement. Give him just 1 year, and he could absorb this energy and return to the God Meridian realm. The martial path is hard. Harder than reaching the heavens. Every step is a step into the sky. Humans start at the mortal realm, training flesh and muscle, bones and skin. They temper their internal organs and external body together. Once the body is fully tempered, they open the meridian gates, connecting to spiritual energy, and enter the spirit meridian realm. The full 9 stages of cultivation are mortal realm, spirit meridian realm, meridian forging realm, true meridian realm, desolate meridian realm, paragon meridian realm, imperial meridian realm, empyrean meridian realm, and God meridian realm. These are known as the 9 meridians of immortal ascension. Zimmo looked at the horizon. He could use the sphere's power to instantly complete his mortal realm training and step directly into spirit meridian realm. Absorbing all of it in 1 year and returning to God Meridian realm was well within reach. But he wasn't rushing. First, he was still within the true martial sacred ground, and his father monitored his progress closely. He didn't want to draw suspicion. Second, Zimmo wanted to savor this moment. Everything was still here. Everything could still be saved. His father, Ruhu, Xiao Dingtian, and that girl by the willow riverbank, the one who cried in the wind, saying she just wanted an ordinary life with him. In the end, he had failed them all. After countless near-deaths, he lost to the protagonist Chu Yang's sword. Zimmo looked to the distance, his white robes blending into the mist. The wind howled louder, and his smile turned wild. Chu Yang, In my past life, I was just a slightly bigger stone on your path to glory. With the help of old man Samsara, your cheat code old master, I was nothing but a pawn on your board. But in this life I will step off the board. I will control the pieces. The world is my board. All beings are my pieces. I will walk against my fate. Su Zimmo's courtyard sat halfway up South Goose Mountain. Along the path, spirit herbs bloomed. Blue and violet-striped rainbows arced across the air. Sacred beasts sprinted in the distance, glowing in godly light. The spirit trees bore vibrant fruit, each one a treasure people would kill for outside. But here they were mere decorations. When Su Zimmo reached the gate, his guard Zhang Zhongtian was already waiting respectfully. "Young master," Zhang said, "the sacred vice lord sent word. If you're free, please go see him, he has something to discuss." "Understood," Su Zimmo nodded, walking with Zhang toward Green Mountain. 3 years ago, the true martial sacred ground's current sacred lord reached the peak of the Empyrean Meridian realm. To seek that final step into the God Meridian realm, he gave up control of the sect. He handed power to the second-in-command, Su Qingshan, and went off into the mortal world to search for enlightenment in simplicity. Since then, Su Qingshan had become the most powerful figure in the sect. And Su Zimmo was his only son. It wasn't an exaggeration to call him the crown prince of the entire sect. Su Zimmo figured his father probably wanted to talk about cultivation. He was 15 now, just reaching the starting point. Before 15, a person's meridians and organs weren't fully developed, too weak for proper training. In the primordial heartlands, almost everyone began their cultivation journey at age 15. When Su Zimmo arrived at Green Mountain, he didn't see grand buildings or luxurious towers. Only a small wooden hut, a clear, slow river, and a middle-aged man in a blue robe sitting peacefully by the water. Su Zimmo stood quietly at the river's edge, watching his father. He said nothing. Su Qingshan said nothing. Father and son, silent, yet perfectly in sync. After a while, a breeze stirred the air. Su Qingshan slowly looked up. He looked like any ordinary middle-aged man. His robe was simple. His presence was calm. There was no intimidating aura. He looked like any other ordinary person in the world. An average face, long hair flowing down his back, tied loosely at the crown. At his temples, strands of gray had started to appear. But what truly drew attention were his eyes. They seemed to hold the stars of the entire cosmos. Just one glance, and even Zhang Zhongtian, a true Meridian realm cultivator, felt as though his soul had frozen. And that was saying something. For someone at his level to be so helpless, this was what they meant by every step on the path is like climbing to heaven. "You've grown up," said Su Qingshan warmly. He was a little surprised at how calm his son had been. To become strong, one must learn to endure solitude and silence. "You've grown old," Su Zimmo replied, his voice trembling as he looked at the gray in his father's hair. In that moment, all his emotions rushed back. In his past life, he had made a 3-year pact with Chu Yang, the protagonist, to duel in Nether Dragon Ravine. But when the time came, he lost and was thrown into the abyss. In revenge, his father mobilized the entire true martial sacred ground to hunt Chu Yang down. But no one could have predicted how fast Chu Yang would grow. He escaped again and again, each time stronger than the last. Eventually, wielding a 3-foot-long sword, Chu Yang stormed the true martial sacred ground himself. They said that battle shook the heavens and split the mountains. The world dimmed, rivers shattered. Su Qingshan was ultimately defeated by Chu Yang. Had the sacred lord not appeared at the last moment to stop the fight, Su Zimmo's father might not have survived at all. The trauma broke him. Overnight, his hair turned completely white. He withdrew from the world and vanished into the mountains. No one knew that Su Zimmo hadn't died in Nether Dragon Ravine. Instead, he stumbled upon a great opportunity. It was then he truly began his cultivation journey, desperate to become stronger. Eventually, he reached the God Meridian realm, ready to take his revenge on Chu Yang. But Chu Yang's strength was overwhelming, his trump cards endless. That battle crushed all of Su Zimmo's pride. Back in the present, Su Qingshan handed him a token and said softly, "You've come of age. It's time to choose a cultivation method from the scripture vault. This token grants you access to the top floor, where the true inheritances of the 4 Grand Emperors are kept. The choice is yours." Su Zimmo took the token and nodded firmly. Truthfully, he had already read through the 4 imperial techniques in his past life. But some things needed to be done for appearances. He couldn't expose the fact that he'd been reborn. He still didn't fully understand how the sphere worked either. "I won't interfere with your cultivation," Su Qingshan added. "Which technique you choose is up to you. In the end, everyone must walk their own path." After a pause, he continued, "Right now, you're like a carriage teetering on the edge of a cliff. All I can do is warn you, don't fall. As for where the carriage heads, east, west, north, or south, that's entirely up to you." Su Zimmo nodded. He understood what his father meant. Whether it was a Supreme Grand Emperor's technique or an ordinary method, in the end, there wasn't much difference. Everyone has to carve out their own martial path. No matter how powerful something left behind by others may be, it wasn't made for you, it'll never fit perfectly. Go on now. Your mother just went to your grandfather's place. I heard the 10 meridian fruit is about to ripen. She's trying to get one for you, Su Qingshan said with a smile. Train well, don't let me down. Disappoint you? Su Zimmo murmured to himself. Then he nodded firmly. In his past life, he had indeed let his father down. Before he was thrown into Nether Dragon Ravine, he hadn't taken cultivation seriously at all. He drowned himself in indulgence, in the hollow pleasures he'd built around himself. He was the crown prince of the true martial sacred ground. Everyone around him wagged their tails and flattered him like lapdogs. He lacked for nothing, so why bother cultivating? Later, he finally understood. There's no such thing as a peaceful life. It's just that someone else is shouldering the burden for you. Leaving Green Mountain, Su Zimmo headed straight for the scripture vault. Looking up at the towering building wrapped in grand mist, this place wasn't just a legend. It was the heart of a sect filled with myth and power. The true martial sacred ground wasn't just any sect. It was an imperial lineage, a faction that had produced 4 grand emperors. What is a grand emperor? They are the strongest beings of their era. It's said that each era produces a heaven's will, and the one who stands out among tens of millions to carry that destiny becomes a grand emperor. 100,000 years ago, the primordial heartlands was still in its desolate era, a time when humans were as insignificant as ants, as fleeting as dust. One day, a man named Zheng Wu stepped forward with sword in hand. He survived endless near-death trials, ignited his god flame, forged his throne, and carried the heaven's will. At the peak of the heavens, he declared, "The heaven's will is mine alone." From that day, the desolate era ended. Humanity entered the unprecedented imperial era. Grand Emperor Zheng Wu was the first Grand Emperor of that age. He opened the curtain on a sweeping, epic era. "We acknowledge you as the strongest," countless voices cried, kneeling under his might. After carrying the heaven's will, Grand Emperor Zheng Wu came to the western region of the eastern continent and founded the true martial sacred ground. On the day it was established, people came from all directions to pay tribute. The 4 seas bowed down in worship. Millions fought for a chance to join. Countless other sects begged to become its vassals. From then on, the tens of thousands of miles of land in the far west fell under the sect's rule, and it has remained so to this day. Thousands of years later, another man walked out from the true martial sacred ground. His name has long been forgotten, but everyone remembers the 3 long sabers on his back. Slay immortals, butcher demons, face myself. With these 3 blades, he suppressed his entire era. He was the 7th Grand Emperor of the Imperial Era, and the 2nd Grand Emperor to emerge from the true martial sacred ground. The world remembers him as the Grand Emperor Sandao. Another 10,000 years passed, and the sect birthed its 3rd Grand Emperor, the Grand Emperor Xinxing. Among all the Grand Emperors throughout history, the Grand Emperor Shenxing wasn't the most dazzling. But he was the fastest, bar none. In the twilight of his reign, he looked deep into the horizon and left behind one final sentence. With these feet, I shall cross every shining river, behold all fleeting beauty, and walk to the peak of sun and moon. Then he vanished, leaving only the image of his legendary back, etched forever into memory. The legacy left behind by the three Grand Emperors had once elevated the true martial sacred ground to an unprecedented golden age. But everything in this world follows its own cycle. What flourishes must eventually fade. For tens of thousands of years afterward, no new Grand Emperor ever emerged from the sect. Though still a giant, the true martial sacred ground inevitably began a slow decline from its former glory. That is, until 3,000 years ago, when the appearance of a single girl shattered that long stagnation. She was born in a remote village, tucked away in the 10,000-mile territory ruled by the true martial sacred ground. For 15 years, she lived a simple, ordinary life, until one day, she witnessed a battle between two desolate meridian realm cultivators in the skies above her village. That single moment planted a seed in her young heart, a glimpse into another world. Drawn by awe and longing, she journeyed to the true martial sacred ground, hoping to join. But during the aptitude tests, she was rejected for having average spiritual roots. Still, the girl refused to give up. She knelt at the stone steps outside the sect's gate, and remained there for 7 full days. Wind and rain beat her down. The scorching sun blazed overhead. She drank not a drop of water, ate not a single bite. She was just a powerless mortal then, but she endured it all. Though her consciousness blurred, she never lost it entirely. Her sheer willpower moved those who saw her. Eventually, an outer court elder took pity on her and accepted her as a registered disciple. She was like a frog trapped at the bottom of a well, desperate to escape, like an ant crawling across the earth, always crawling, always pushing forward. Until one day, that ant stood tall, and only then did people realize. Somehow, at some point, she had grown to match the heavens themselves. Her era was filled with dazzling geniuses, countless prodigies. Yet no one ever imagined that a girl of such ordinary talent would sweep through her entire generation. They called her Grand Empress Hong Tian. Among all the Grand Emperors in the endless history of time, Grand Empress Hong Tian shone as one of the most brilliant stars. Her light not only illuminated her own era, but profoundly influenced many emperors who came after her. She led the true martial sacred ground into a second golden age. As Su Zimmo reflected on the sect's long history, his gaze turned solemn. One day, he too wanted his name to shine among the countless stars of this epic legacy. He made his way to the scripture vault, located at the heart of the sect. It housed every technique and martial art collected since the founding of the true martial sacred ground. Unlike the towering majesty one might expect, the area around the vault had a peaceful, almost relaxing atmosphere. Ancient trees reached skyward. Spirit herbs carpeted the ground. Dao flowers bloomed in vibrant color, and brilliant butterflies danced around them. Rare alchemy fowls patrolled the area, tending the herbs and flowers, loosening soil, fertilizing, and picking off pests. The scripture vault had 18 floors. As Su Zimmo stood at the entrance, the air felt ancient and profound. The building stood quietly, as though telling the tale of tens of thousands of years of history. Its color was a blend of green and pale gold, with jade platforms, turquoise tiles, and vermilion eaves. Exotic beasts were carved into both sides of the roof, eagles spreading their wings, birds soaring, leopards roaring, wild lions baring their teeth. There were no guards at the front door, yet Su Zimmo could clearly sense a dangerous energy in the surroundings. High-level formations were hidden all around. If anyone tried to break in, they would activate. Even a Paragon Meridian realm cultivator might not escape easily. Su Zimmo placed his father's token in the slot at the door. A hidden elder responsible for guarding the vault would verify the token and assign access permissions. A shimmering barrier vanished, and Su Zimmo walked inside. The first floor was simple in layout. Tens of thousands of bookshelves were neatly arranged. Each shelf held various meridian techniques and cultivation methods, protected by faint glowing barriers. At the front of each shelf, a small plaque listed the title, purpose, and grade of the techniques stored there. Zimmo didn't linger. He went straight to the top, the 18th floor. The lighting there was dim. The space held only 4 statues. Each statue seemed to exist in its own isolated pocket of space. Zimmo stood before them and looked from left to right. The first statue was of a man with long hair draped over his shoulders. His presence was commanding, his gaze vast and deep. He radiated the aura of a sovereign above all others. This was a man who stood with mountains beneath his feet and the sky on his back. The second statue was also male, but gave off an extreme, obsessive energy, someone who had abandoned everything for the sake of one pursuit. Proud and wild, he carried 3 strange long sabers on his back. The moment you looked at the blades, you knew this was a man wholly devoted to the way of the blade. He had lived and died by the saber. Born beneath the saber, die beneath the saber. The third statue showed only a silhouette. It felt ephemeral, like it was right in front of you, and at the same time impossibly far away. He moved between reality and void, searching only for the ultimate truth of speed. The fourth statue was of a woman with long hair cascading down her back, her face hidden by a thin veil. Her style shifted with every glance. At first, she seemed pure and lively, like the girl next door, someone you'd fall in love with on a quiet afternoon. Then in another look, she seemed seductive, enchanting. In the next, she became a fearless warrior, a goddess of war who didn't flinch at bloodshed, firm in her beliefs, unmatched in strength. And finally, she became something else entirely, an empress above all, a supreme ruler. In her gaze, all living things were ants. The glories of the world seemed meaningless under her power. Zimmo looked upon the statues of the 4 grand emperors in the sect's history, his heart filled with respect. In truth, he didn't plan on cultivating someone else's technique. In his past life, he had already walked his own martial path. But to avoid suspicion and hide his secret, he chose Grand Emperor Sandao's technique. He actually admired the Grand Emperor's pure, extreme path of the saber. It would serve as a good transitional method. Zimmo placed his hand on the statue and closed his eyes, emptying his thoughts, trying to connect with it. A thick white mist surrounded everything. He could feel a stream of memory entering his mind. This was the technique cultivated by the Grand Emperor Sandao, Annihilation Codex. All begins in annihilation. All ends in annihilation. Born from annihilation. Perish in annihilation. With the technique in hand, Zimmo prepared to leave. Just before he turned to go, he instinctively glanced toward the corner of the vault, then smiled faintly to himself and walked away, carefree. Not long after Zimmo left, a raspy voice chuckled from the corner of the scripture vault. Huh? Did that little brat notice me just now? No way. Back on the first floor, Zimmo casually picked up a yellow-grade meridian technique. On the primordial heartlands, all cultivation methods and meridian techniques were ranked into 8 grades: universe, galaxy, star, planet, heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. Universe is the highest, yellow is the lowest. The technique he grabbed was called sword drawing technique. It had only one move, drawing the sword. Simple and brutal. Draw your sword, the opponent's head drops. As the saying goes, if your horse is fast enough, even a grand emperor can't catch you. Absolutely terrifying. If you draw your sword fast enough, even a grand emperor's head can be chopped off. Leaving the scripture vault, Zimmo began channeling the energy stored inside the sphere within him, energy from his past life at the God Meridian realm, to start tempering his body. His internal organs, meridians, and vital pathways began to strengthen at a speed visible to the naked eye. From inside his body came audible cracking and popping sounds. His cultivation level skyrocketed in an instant. Mortal Realm, Stage 1. Mortal Realm, Stage 2. Mortal Realm, Stage 9. When he reached the peak of the Mortal Realm, just about to open his first meridian gate, he stopped. He wasn't in a rush to break into the Spirit Meridian realm. His rapid rise had left his foundation unstable. A grand tower starts with a strong foundation in the ground. He decided to temper his base further before advancing. Within the true martial sacred ground, there was a special training facility called the Gravity Tower, used to toughen disciples' bodies. The tower had 10 levels, each level increasing gravitational pressure, nearly tenfold with each floor. On his way there, Zimmo was suddenly stopped. "Bro Zimmo, wait for me," a voice called out. A chubby boy came puffing over from a distance. He had short hair, a candy stick in his mouth, and a string of snot dangling from his nose. "Bro Zimmo, no wonder I couldn't find you all day. You've been hiding here," the chubby kid said, wiping his nose with practiced ease and licking his candy with satisfaction. "Ruhu, long time no see." Zimmo greeted him warmly, looking at the familiar boy. Lin Ruhu, full name, was the grandson of the third grand elder of the sect, and Zimmo's childhood partner in crime. He was Zimmo's loyal sidekick, always following him and doing as he was told. In his past life, Lin Ruhu had always been the background support, never the spotlight. But in truth, his talent was no weaker than Zimmo's, perhaps even stronger. Back then, Zimmo thought it was his kingly aura and godlike charm that made Lin Ruhu worship him, until the war in the latter part of his life, when Lin Ruhu stepped in and took a fatal sword meant for Zimmo. It was a killing strike from Chu Yang, the protagonist. Holding the blood-soaked youth in his arms, Lin Ruhu had shouted, "Why? Why would you do this?" Barely alive, the youth finally revealed the truth behind his loyalty. When they were 10, they had once snuck out of the sect and were ambushed by a white-eyed tiger. Zimmo had stood in front, shielding Lin Ruhu, and told him to run. Lin Ruhu had asked, "Why protect me?" After all, Zimmo could have easily left him behind. But Zimmo had replied plainly, "Because we're brothers. I'm the older one, you're the younger one. That's what it means. Brother comes first." From that moment, even Zimmo hadn't realized. This slightly chubby kid had secretly sworn, "For the rest of my life, I'll stay by your side. Even if the sun and moon fade and the seas turn to dust, I'll protect you." Hearing Zimmo's comment, Lin Ruhu looked confused. "What do you mean, long time no see? Didn't we hang out yesterday?" "It's nothing." Zimmo chuckled and shook his head. "I'm heading to the Gravity Tower to train. You coming?" Lin Ruhu was around the same age as Zimmo. It was about time he started cultivating too. Sure. Lin Ruhu nodded eagerly. In his eyes, if Zimmo said it, it had to be worth doing. As they walked toward the Gravity Tower, Zimmo looked at Lin Ruhu's appearance again. Snot hanging from his nose, flicking it around without care, always sucking on a candy stick. He looked as sloppy as a kid could look. Zimmo couldn't help but say, "Ruhu, could you eat fewer sweets and wipe your nose once in a while? You should take care of how you look." "What's wrong with how I look?" Lin Ruhu asked, puzzled. Zimmo figured, they're young men now at that age where crushes start. Surely Lin Ruhu would start caring about what girls thought of him. So he tried a different approach. "You must have someone you like, right? But who's going to fall for you when you look like this? Take my advice. Clean up a little. Who knows, maybe you'll win her heart." "Why would I want to win her heart?" Lin Ruhu asked, even more confused. "Because feelings are mutual. You can't just fall for someone one-sidedly," Zimmo reasoned. "I don't need her to agree. I'll just force it," Lin Ruhu said matter-of-factly. "You know what they say, a twisted melon doesn't taste sweet." "I know," Lin Ruhu said, "but it still quenches thirst." "Damn!" Zimmo stopped walking, stunned. "You're a genius, or something. How do you say the dumbest things with such a straight face, and still somehow make it sound reasonable?" When they arrived at the Gravity Tower, they saw its oval-shaped structure. It resembled a pagoda in design. Inside, many disciples were already training. Training in the Gravity Tower wasn't free. Disciples had to complete tasks to earn contribution points, which were then exchanged for training time inside. But for Zimmo and Lin Ruhu, who they were, contribution points were never a problem. The first level of the tower doubled gravity. Each level after increased it tenfold. Inside the gravity tower, several disciples were seated cross-legged, struggling to circulate their techniques under the immense pressure. Some were swinging heavy hammers with forceful gusts, while others carried massive stones on their backs and leapt around the room like frogs. As Zimmo and Lin Ruhu stepped inside, they were instantly struck by a powerful force from all directions. Zimmo could still move, albeit more slowly, nothing too serious. But for Lin Ruhu, it was like being hit by a runaway carriage. He was slammed to the floor, struggling to breathe under the pressure. "Don't try to fight the gravity with brute strength," Zimmo advised calmly. "Take deep breaths. Let your body adjust to the pressure. Relax your mind. Try to sense the flow of gravity and move with it." Lin Ruhu quickly shut his eyes and took a few long breaths before slowly getting used to it. Not long after Zimmo began tempering his foundation, a group of disciples gathered around him. At the front stood a girl, clearly the center of attention. With a haughty attitude, she walked up to Zimmo and demanded, "Zimmo, Lin Ruhu, what are you doing here?" "Up to your usual troublemaking." Zimmo glanced at her. She was Liao Ruan, granddaughter of one of the sect's grand elder. "None of your business," Zimmo replied indifferently. "Yeah, quit being nosy. Zimmo's not gonna marry you anyway," Lin Ruhu shouted beside him. That grand elder and sacred vice lord Chu Yang had long been at odds. When the sacred lord left years ago, the grand elder had hoped to take power himself. But in the end, Chu Yang was chosen instead. The grand elder had never let it go. Over the years, two factions had naturally formed within the true martial sacred ground, one led by Chu Yang and the younger generation, the other by the grand elders. Liao Ruan fumed at Zimmo's attitude. "If you've got the guts, then let's have a match." "Not interested," Zimmo replied with a yawn, waving her off. "Go play somewhere else. Don't interrupt my training. If you're scared, just admit it. Say you surrender, and I'll let you off," Liao Ruan said smugly. Zimmo shook his head. She really was just like a spoiled princess. Then again, being the grand elder's granddaughter, everyone around her must have fought to win her favor. It wasn't all that different from how he himself had lived in his past life. "I'm not afraid," he said calmly. "But there's usually a wager involved in duels. What do you have that could interest me?" Liao Ruan paused to think. "If you win, I'll tell you a secret." "Nope." Zimmo waved his hand immediately. "What if your secret is that you've had a crush on me all along?" That got a burst of laughter from the watching disciples. "You're shameless." Liao Ruan's face turned red with anger as she pointed at him. "If you win, I'll tell you that my grandfather's alchemy sage fowl laid 2 chicks a few days ago. Deal?" Zimmo's face darkened. "I'm suddenly not that interested in your secret anymore. Can we change it?" Off to the side, Lin Ruhu's eyes went wide at the mention of alchemy sage fowl. He licked his lips, eyes darting thoughtfully. Alchemy fowls were rare and precious spirit birds, impossible to buy with money. They were excellent caretakers of immortal herbs, fertilizing, aerating, pest controlling, like ideal garden guardians. Alchemy sage fowls were the elite among them, like the king of beggars, still a beggar, but in a league of their own. Raised exclusively on spirit herbs from birth, their flesh and even their poop brimmed with spiritual energy. It was said that just one bite of their meat could extend a mortal's life by a year. "So, what wager do you want?" Liao Ruan asked cautiously. "I heard your grandfather's dark sky tiger recently had a secret fling with a reincarnation ox and they had a litter." Zimmo grinned slyly. "What are you planning?" Liao Ruan asked, immediately on guard. "Grandpa already said he's giving them away as favors. I can't just take them." "I want 2 of those tiger cubs," Zimmo said directly. "If you're not willing, we don't have to fight. Besides, you're your grandfather's precious granddaughter, right? Sneaking out 2 cubs should be nothing for you. Unless your grandpa thinks you're worth less than a couple of tigers." "Who said that?" Liao Ruan snapped. My grandpa dotes on me. Fine, I agree. Great. So how do you want to do this? Zimmo asked, clearly amused. Simple. A straight-up fight. Winner takes all. Liao Ruan said with a confident smirk. Unfair. Lin Ruhu shouted. You've been training for half a year already. Zimmo just started. He doesn't stand a chance. Then what do you suggest? Liao Ruan glared, baring her small tiger-like teeth. I might have a solution, said a voice from the second floor of the gravity tower. Everyone looked up to see a young man descending slowly. He wore a long blue robe, had sharp features, a high-nosed bridge, and his long hair was tied up neatly. A jade-green sword hung at his waist. Senior brother Zong Exion, Liao Ruan exclaimed, running over happily. Little junior sister, Zong Exion said warmly. The outside world is dangerous. You should stay away from people with hidden agendas. Zimmo looked over at the man. Zong Exion was the Grand Elder's personal disciple, known in the martial world as the Light Flow Swordsman. Many of the surrounding disciples rushed to greet him, eager to make a good impression, whether they knew him or not. So, what's your idea? Zimmo asked flatly. No rush, Zong Exion replied with a calm smile. Just now, Ruan agreed to give you 2 dark sky tiger cubs if you win. But what if you lose? You haven't mentioned your side of the wager. If I lose, Zimmo said, I'll grant one request, anything within my power. Good. Zong Exion nodded. If you lose, I won't ask for much. Just bark like a dog 3 times in front of everyone in the sacred ground. How about that? All grown up and still so childish, Zimmo said with a sigh, shaking his head. He looked at Zong Exion and smiled. All right, I accept. He understood Zong Exion's thinking. After all, Zimmo's father was the vice lord. If he lost face, so did his father. I have a yellow-grade meridian technique here, Zong Exion said coolly. You both get 1 incense stick of time to study it. Whoever understands it better and uses it more skillfully wins. Fine by me. Zimmo and Liao Ruan both nodded. Zong Exion took the technique out from his storage ring. The yellow-grade technique was called Soaring Swallow Blade Art. Liao Ruan's eyes lit up when she saw it. She had been cultivating the Soaring Swallow Blade Art since she started tempering her body half a year ago and had recently reached minor completion. In the primordial heartlands, every meridian technique was divided into 4 levels of mastery: minor completion, major completion, grand completion, and absolute perfection. And the technique she had been working on this whole time was this exact one, Soaring Swallow Blade Art. Zong Exion gave her a discreet smile and said, If there are no objections, you can start now. No need to make it so complicated, Zimmo said, waving his hand. He casually flipped through the technique. Let me borrow your saber, he said to a nearby onlooking disciple. Clang. The long saber left its sheath. Zimmo gripped the hilt and gave a light slash through the air. The crowd felt something mysterious pass before them. The saber unleashed a glowing blade aura over a meter long. To everyone's astonishment, the aura took the shape of a swallow mid-flight. The air split with a crisp white arc. Then the swallow vanished. Zimmo casually handed the saber back and turned to Liao Ruan with a smile. Your turn. Let's see your performance. The entire place fell into silence. After a long pause, someone finally muttered uncertainly, Was that a martial Dao intent? Did he already master Soaring Swallow Blade Art to absolute perfection? Gasps spread through the crowd. Only techniques at absolute perfection could manifest martial Dao intent. Liao Ruan stared at Zimmo, speechless. You've already reached absolute perfection, and I'm still stuck at minor completion. How the hell am I supposed to compete with that? If you think 1 incense stick isn't enough, I'll give you a full day. If you can surpass me by then, you win, Zimmo said with a laugh, turning to Zong Exion. What do you think, senior brother Zong? Zong Exion snapped out of his shock, forcing a smile. Sure, but I think a match is more about the experience. Winning or losing doesn't matter as much as what we gain. Bullshit, Zimmo said bluntly. If results don't matter, then why compete at all? Senior brother Zhong, you're the Grand Elder's top disciple. And yet you can't grasp such a simple truth? Is this because you're not too bright yourself? Or because the Grand Elder's teachings are too rigid? Teachers guide the path. Walking it is up to the student. Zong Exion replied coldly. If you have a problem, take it up with me. But you're in no place to insult my master. Say whatever you want. Zimmo shrugged with a grin. I'm only concerned about those dark sky tiger cubs. When are they arriving? Zong Exion paused, glancing at Liao Ruan. Dark sky tigers were imperial beasts, extremely rare, even within the true martial sacred ground. The Grand Elder had already planned to give the cubs as favors to important allies. So Zong Exion couldn't make that decision on his own. If you can't deliver, just say so. I won't push it, Zimmo replied with a calm smile. But some people really shouldn't play if they can't handle losing. It's embarrassing to the entire true martial sacred ground. Think of how glorious Grand Emperor Jinhai once was. We may not surpass our ancestors, but let's not shame them either. Yeah, if you can't take it, don't waste people's time, Lin Ruhu chimed in. A Grand Emperor once said, time is money, time is life. Wasting someone's time is basically stealing their life. No need for sarcasm, Liao Ruan snapped, her face red with frustration. I lost. I admit it. I'll honor the bet. Then she turned and ran off. Zimmo, don't you think we went a little too far? Lin Ruhu asked softly, tugging at Zimmo's sleeve and glancing in Liao Ruan's direction. Too far. Zimmo smiled and shook his head. First, he hadn't wanted to start anything. She came to pick a fight and humiliate him. Second, Liao Ruan already knew soaring swallow blade art, and Zong Exion chose that exact technique for the match. That was a setup, plain and simple. Third, Zimmo reminded himself he's a villain now. If someone even looks at him wrong, he might just wipe out their whole family. So what if he goes too far? Zong Exion gave Zimmo one last deep look, then hurried after Liao Ruan. Picking on a girl, how impressive! A quiet voice called out from the crowd. The voice was low, and with so many people present, Zimmo couldn't tell who said it. Who's talking crap behind our backs? Lin Ruhu shouted, glaring at the group. The disciples looked around at each other, shaking their heads in silent agreement. No one stepped forward. I hate people who talk behind others' backs, Zimmo said with a smile, stepping forward. If you've got something to say it to my face, like a man. I know someone here heard who it was. Here's the deal. Whoever tells me who said it gets to follow me from now on. Be part of my gang. Wait, my gang? That sounds kinda wrong. What I mean is, you'll be my subordinate. My lackey. One of my boys. Before he'd even finished, someone already raised a hand. Brother Zimmo, I report it was him. Yeah, I heard it clearly. He was the one talking. No doubt about it. He's my buddy, we talk a lot. He always criticizes you behind your back. I swear on my honor and dignity. And just like that, the crowd exploded. It was as if the whole group had suddenly turned into mini detectives. All fingers pointed at one white-robed disciple. The poor guy stood there in total confusion. He just muttered a few words, figuring no one would notice in such a big crowd. He never imagined there'd be this kind of rat-out-your-friend-for-clout twist. Now, just for a chance to become Zimmo's lackey, they were all throwing him under the bus like loyal fanboys. A simp stays a simp and in the end, gets nothing. The boy glanced disdainfully at the others, clearly unimpressed. Who are you? Zimmo stepped forward and asked. My name's Chu Yuin. My grandfather is Chu Yaoguang, an inner court elder. The boy replied proudly. Lin Ruhu smacked him on the back of the head. My grandfather is the third Grand Elder, and even I don't brag like that. Since when did being the grandson of an inner court elder make you hot shit? In the true martial sacred ground, ever since the Sacred Lord left, Sacred Vice Lord Su Qingshan held the most power. Next came the 7 Grand Elders, followed by the inner court elders, and then the outer court elders. You had no reason to hit me, Chu Yuan snapped back. If you've got guts, Let's fight for real. You want to spar with me? Zimmo asked with a smile. All right, but what are you betting that's worth my time? Let's fight directly. No need for insight or comprehension contests, Chu Yuan said confidently. He had started cultivating over a year ago and had already opened his first meridian gate, reaching the spirit meridian realm, making him an official outer court disciple. If you win, I'll wager this dragon pearl, Chu Yuan said, pulling out a dark yellow orb from his storage ring. The orb was covered in intricate, chaotic patterns. At first, Zimmo didn't think much of it, but the moment he laid eyes on it, he froze. Searched high and low in my past life and never found it, and now it just falls into my lap. With excitement in his eyes, he snatched the orb and studied it closely for a while before confirming its identity. Where did you get this? Zimmo asked, staring intensely. Chu Yuan was startled by the heat in Zimmo's gaze. I found it while playing near the river behind the mountain, he stammered. Perfect. Zimmo nodded, satisfied. Then it's mine now. But we haven't fought yet, Chu Yuan protested. What fight? Lin Ruhu glared at him. Brother Zimmo, taking your stuff is the best thing that's ever happened to you. You're just bullying me. Chu Yuan backed away, tears welling up. Scram! Zimmo waved his hand dismissively. Run along, or I'll beat your dumb ass. Why, you'll regret this. Chu Yuan burst into tears and ran out of the gravity tower. Zimmo didn't care. Among the younger generation, unless someone crossed a major line or caused serious harm, the elders rarely intervened. Besides, as a proper villain, doing things like reneging on deals and stealing loot was par for the course. Fair play from a villain. What are you, hi? That orb was the hell-suppressing pearl. No one else may have known its secret yet, but Zimmo knew very well. In his past life, it had been one of protagonist Chu Yang's ultimate trump cards, and it had given Zimmo hell. After securing the hell-suppressing pearl, Zimmo continued cultivating in the gravity tower for the rest of the day. The double gravity of the first floor was no longer enough for him, so he moved on to the second floor, which had 20 times normal gravity. The jump between the first and second floors was massive, so the sect had cleverly added intermediate gravity levels on the staircase leading up. It started from triple gravity and increased gradually for 5 all the way to 19 times, until reaching 20 upon entering the second floor. Zimmo sat at the midway point, exactly 10 times gravity. He trained like that the entire day. As the sun set behind the western peaks, he finally exhaled a long breath. His foundation had grown even more solid. A stream of warm white mist escaped his mouth. He was nearly ready to break through to the spirit meridian realm in the coming days. Night had fallen. Zimmo bid farewell to Lin Ruhu but did not return to his residence on South Goose Peak. Instead, with guard Zhang Zhongtian accompanying him, he made his way to the Divine Armory Pavilion. It was time to choose his weapon. Blades, spears, staves, swords, halberds, axes, and pikes, the full array of 18 weapon types. His father had once said, "Every weapon has a soul. Never treat it like a cold, lifeless tool." For many warriors, their weapon has been with them since they first stepped onto the martial path. The connection between a cultivator and their weapon is mutual. You choose it and it chooses you. It is your partner, not a tool for slaughter. A true cultivator can awaken a weapon's spirit. Only then does it truly belong to you. The Divine Armory Pavilion had 10 floors. Weapons in the primordial heartlands were graded just like techniques and cultivation methods. Universe, galaxy, star, planet, heaven, earth, profound, yellow. The first floor contained basic weapons, mortal-grade items made from high-quality materials. Many disciples were confused by this. If the materials could be used to craft earth-grade or even heaven-grade weapons, why would the blacksmiths intentionally lower the grade to mortal? This was something most disciples in the sect never understood, which is why they usually started picking weapons from the second floor and up. From the second to the 9th floor, weapons were categorized by the 8 standard ranks: universe, galaxy, star, planet, heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. But on the 10th floor, That was where the truly legendary weapons were kept. True emperor weapons, left behind by grand emperors of past ages after they ascended. These weapons had followed their masters through wars and tribulations. They had been tempered by the heavens' will itself. Their power far exceeded even universe-grade weapons. Yet Su Zimmo ignored all the ranked weapons and headed straight to the first floor, where the mortal-grade weapons were kept. Master Su, all of these are untempered mortal weapons, Zhang Zhongtian said in confusion. Why would you want one of these? Because they're in their most natural state. That's exactly why I want them, Su Zimmo smiled. A piece of uncut jade, given to a skilled artisan. Whether it becomes trash or a priceless gem depends entirely on the craftsmanship. He sighed wistfully. A true priceless work of art. Most people only cared about high-tier weapons, universe, galaxy, or star-grade. But they forgot many of those weapons had started as mortal-grade, evolving step by step. If you never stood by a weapon in its weakest form, how could it ever recognize you as its master? In his past life, Su Zimmo had known a blacksmith, an old man who only forged mortal weapons. He never made ranked items. He once told Su Zimmo, a weapon that starts out as universe grade without ever going through the mortal, yellow, or profound stages, its soul will always be incomplete. The weapons on the first floor of the Divine Armory Pavilion looked completely ordinary. There were no radiant glows or fearsome auras, just plain, dusty tools lined up quietly on the walls. Su Zimmo stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of rust, because disciples of the true martial sacred ground rarely came to the first floor to select weapons. Many of the mortal-grade weapons had gathered a layer of dust over time. Near the entrance, an old man dozed in a reclining chair. He opened one eye when he saw Su Zimmo and his guard approach, gave them a glance, and lazily said, "Pick whatever you want. 1 weapon per person. Just tell me when you leave." Then he turned over and went right back to sleep. What kind of attitude is that? Zhang Zhongtian grumbled. It's fine, Su Zimmo said, shaking his head. He gave the old man a meaningful look, then continued inside. He didn't hesitate or search much. He headed straight to a corner of the room, where a wall was densely lined with weapons, blades, spears, staves, even rare and unusual types. Amid the mass, one weapon in the bottom left corner caught his eye. It was a slightly curved saber, about 5 feet long. Its edge looked extremely sharp, and the blade had a gentle arc. It weighed about 15 pounds in hand. The hilt was patterned with a cross-hatched grip, thick and heavy in the palm. This one, Su Zimmo said, ignoring Zhang Zhongtian's surprise, and walked with the saber to the old man at the entrance. The old man, disturbed from his nap again, glanced at the saber with disinterest and muttered, "All right, it's yours. Now get lost and let an old man sleep." Su Zimmo nodded without a word, sheathed the blade, strapped it to his back, and turned to leave. "Oh right, its name is Shadow Tyrant," the old man suddenly called out behind him. "Shadow Tyrant, huh? Of course I know it," Su Zimmo replied with a smirk, not even turning around as he vanished into the breeze. Su Zimmo was sure that he would never forget the words his father once said. A true saber wielder is someone who can awaken the soul within the blade and earn its recognition. In his previous life, Su Zimmo hadn't paid much attention to that advice. To him, a weapon was just a tool for killing, nothing more, nothing less. Until that battle in Nether Dragon Ravine, when Shadow Tyrant was shattered by Chu Yang's weapon. Only in that moment, when the saber broke, did Su Zimmo truly hear its cry of sorrow. Only then did he realize what his father meant. But by then it was too late. Returning to his courtyard, Su Zimmo sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. In his previous life, he started by training in the Annihilation Codex, the technique of the Grand Emperor Sandao. In his previous timeline, he cultivated it all the way to the Imperial Meridian realm before he began forging his own path. Abandoning the Annihilation Codex, he started researching, deducing, and creating a completely original technique, his own. He named it Grand Freedom Sovereign Codex. This technique focused on mastering the past, present, and future. When perfected, it would allow one to reach the source of time itself, connecting with versions of oneself from the past and even future epochs, traversing multiple timelines. Unfortunately, in his previous life, after reaching the God Meridian realm, he hit a wall. A deep emotional knot in his heart blocked further progress. That's why he sought out Chu Yang, to resolve that knot. But he failed miserably. This time, however, after being reborn, something clicked. He suddenly felt more clarity about the concepts of time, past and future. He believed, without a doubt, that he could complete the technique and take a step beyond the God Meridian realm. Creating your own cultivation method was something every true cultivator had to do eventually. No matter how powerful a legacy might be, it was still someone else's path. It could only be a reference, never a perfect fit. Zimmo trained through the night, continually refining his codex. As dawn broke, he stretched with a yawn. Even though he hadn't slept all night, he felt completely energized. That was the beauty of cultivation at Mortal Realm Stage 9. He could go 7 days and nights without sleep and feel only mildly fatigued. As the morning sun rose, Lin Ruhu arrived at South Goose Mountain, looking for Zimmo. He was carrying a huge burlap sack on his back, glancing over his shoulder with every step like he was sneaking around. "What's with you?" Zimmo asked curiously after washing up. "Zimmo, I got you something good." Lin Ruhu grinned, then opened the sack. Inside were 2 unconscious chicks lying quietly. Their feathers were pure gold, with deep purple combs, shimmering scales of plumage, and crimson tail feathers. Their beaks looked like they were carved from crystal jade, transparent and flawless. Just one glance and it was clear. These birds were no ordinary chickens. "Alchemy sage fowls?" Zimmo asked, shocked. "Where'd you get these?" "Oh, I went to Sky Gorge Mountain this morning to see Liao Ruan," Lin Ruhu said with innocent eyes, blinking rapidly. "I saw these 2 chicks lying on the ground. Poor things, so I picked them up." "You stole them, didn't you?" Zimmo narrowed his eyes. "Hey, we're scholars. How could you call it stealing?" Lin Ruhu argued. "I just picked them up conveniently." "I don't mind," Zimmo said with a casual smile. "They're the Grand Elder's pets, right? I heard alchemy sage fowls are raised on spirit herbs from birth. Every part of them, meat, blood, even bones, is infused with dense spiritual energy. Perfect. There's 2. One braised, one steamed." "Awesome." Lin Ruhu licked his lips excitedly. "But it'd be a waste to cook them with regular firewood," Zimmo said, then turned to Zong Exion. "Go to Ancient Herb Mountain and cut some branches from the spirit trees." "Master Su, those trees and herbs are the 2nd Grand Elder's darlings," Zong Exion said awkwardly. "If he finds out I cut his trees, he'll flay me alive." "He won't find out," Zimmo replied. "At this time of day, the 2nd Elder's probably off spying on outer court female disciples bathing. You'll be fine." Zong Exion hesitated, then said, "If anything happens, young Master Su, you better protect me. I'm your man now." "You'll be fine. I've got your back," Zimmo promised. "Also, let's get something straight. You're my guard, not my man. Be careful how you phrase that. People might get the wrong idea." After Zong Exion left, Zimmo and Lin Ruhu began prepping. Boiling water, killing chickens, plucking feathers, preparing spices. By the time Zong Exion returned, sneaking in with a large pile of spirit tree branches, the 2 had everything ready. "What took you so long?" Zimmo asked curiously. "I stayed to watch the drama," Zong Exion chuckled. "Yesterday, the 2nd Grand Elder was caught peeking at female disciples bathing. To escape, he transformed into his senior disciple, Xiao Xinghe. Now the real Xiao Xinghe is being hunted down by every female disciple in the sect. With a master like that, no wonder senior brother Xiao has such bad luck." Lin Ruhu laughed. Zimmo lit the spirit tree branches and set up the grill. 1 alchemy sage fowl was set for roasting. The other was placed in a steaming pot along with side ingredients, dragon spirit grass, heaven heart flower, and invigorating mint. As the spirit would burn, a light, fragrant scent wafted through the air. The water in the pot began to boil. At that moment, maidservant Chun Xiao walked over and said, "Young master, the lady Liao Ruan, is here. She says she has business with you." Besides Su Zimmo and Zhang Zhongtian, 2 maids took care of daily life at his courtyard on South Goose Mountain, Chun Xiao and Xiaqiu. "Let her in," Su Zimmo said. Not long after, Liao Ruan walked in, holding 2 dark sky tiger cubs by the neck, one in each hand. She dangled them like kittens, and the 2 little tigers had expressions of total despair. "I've brought what I owed you," Liao Ruan said flatly. "We're even now." Her eyes were red. She looked like she had just cried and seemed completely dejected. "Who bullied you?" Lin Ruhu asked curiously. "My 2 alchemy sage fowl chicks disappeared," she said pitifully. "I was just playing with them yesterday." Lin Ruhu looked at the grill, then at the boiling pot, then went silent and began staring at the sky. Seeing that she was about to cry again, Su Zimmo sighed and said, "Ruyan, I used to think you were a wise and brilliant girl, but now I see you're incredibly naive." "What do you mean?" Liao Ruyan asked with wide, innocent eyes. "Every creature must walk its own path," Su Zimmo said solemnly. "A chicken must die, whether roasted or steamed. But no matter how it dies, as long as it dies with purpose, with meaning, then its death was worth it. Do you understand?" "Oh, I see." Liao Ruan nodded in confusion. "So I shouldn't go looking for them? 1,000 times I searched for it, only to find the chicken where the lanterns fade." "Some things," Su Zimmo sighed, "the more you chase them, the further they get. Stop looking, and maybe they'll come to you on their own." Liao Ruan nodded seriously. "I understand." "Ruhu, let's split the tiger cubs, 1 each," Su Zimmo said. The dark sky tigers were still tiny, no bigger than house cats. They even looked cat-like, except for the 2 thin, translucent wings on their backs. Their fur was jet black with patterned stripes. Honestly, they were kind of adorable. One cub was tumbling around playfully, showing off. The other was savagely gnawing on Su Zimmo's shoelace. They say you can tell a creature's future by how it acts as a child. The one rolling around was clearly useless, but the one chewing shoelaces? Fierce, aggressive, definitely going to grow into a terrifying mount. So naturally, Su Zimmo picked the playful one. Dark Sky Tiger Cub, MMP, Chinese slang for F***K my life. Zimmo, maybe you should name them? Lin Ruhu suggested. As descendants of imperial meridian beasts, they will one day carry the glory of their ancestors, Su Zimmo said, gazing dramatically toward the sky. Their names will echo across the 4 seas, shake the stars, sweep across the 8 directions. So their names must be bold and mighty. From this day forth, they shall be named Zhuge Cuihua and Situ Guden. Lin Ruhu, Liao Ruan. 2 tiger cubs? Brilliant. Just brilliant. Lin Ruhu clapped after a brief pause. These names, though short and simple, are grammatically precise, elegantly structured, and rhythmically catchy. They perfectly express the namer's deep affection and blessings toward these animals. Every word resonates. Every syllable pierces the heart. Truly, the work of a literary master, effortlessly composed, outrageously creative. I'm in awe. And finishing with an exclamation mark, a masterstroke. It ties everything together, lifts the tone, and makes the emotion leap off the page. Moving, poignant, timeless. A true masterpiece of naming. When he finished, everyone stared at him like they'd just been slapped by a chicken. Am I wrong? Lin Ruhu asked, confused. At that moment, Su Zimmo truly understood the phrase. With enough shamelessness, you become unbeatable. Sure, you're right. Everyone else muttered awkwardly. Meanwhile, the roast chicken on the grill had turned golden and was crackling with fat. Oil dripped off the skin as Su Zimmo hurried to sprinkle on the spices. A rich, mouth-watering aroma filled the air, and the 4 of them unconsciously licked their lips. Oh right, Ruyan? Su Zimmo asked, Feeling any better? Much better, she said, staring at the roast chicken as her stomach growled. Well, if you've got nothing else going on, maybe head out? Lin Ruhu laughed nervously. We're kind of busy here. It's not like I've got anything to do, Liao Ruan said casually. I haven't eaten yet either. You don't mind sharing, right? Are we even that close? Lin Ruhu mumbled. If you don't give me food, I'll go report you to the second Grand Elder, Liao Ruan huffed. Don't think I didn't notice you're burning heaven-grade spirit tree branches. Only 7-star celestial flame trees make sparks like that. TSK. I have a temper, you know. Zimmo stood up. I don't respond well to threats. If you asked nicely, maybe I'd have let you stay. But you threaten me? He turned to Lin Ruhu. Ruhu, close the gate. Release Gooden and Tehua. Brother Zimmo, just let me have a bite. Please, Liao Ruan whined, putting on her cutest act. You want to eat? Fine. Flatter me a little, maybe I'll consider it. Zimmo snorted. I refuse, Liao Ruan said seriously. I'm not the kind of person who grovels for food. I will never lie just to fill my stomach. She looked at him with wide, sincere eyes and continued. I've always believed that language is the most beautiful art in the world. But your handsomeness goes beyond words. Just looking at you feels like a sin. Oh no, is this love? Turn away. Quick. Don't let me see your face. My heart's beating too fast. What if it beats itself to death? Don't speak such harsh truths, Zimmo joked with a glare. Fine, you've earned a drumstick later. On the side, Lin Ruhu and Zhang Zhongtian silently muttered, shameless, the both of them. One's bold enough to say it, the other actually takes it in stride. The fire was extinguished, and the dishes were brought over. The braised alchemy sage fowl was golden and crispy, mouth-watering at first glance. The steamed one, when the lid was lifted, released an intense spiritual aroma, as if every drop of its essence had melted into the pale broth. Come on, drink up. Zimmo raised his bowl. Here's to chicken soup. The moment the meat entered his mouth, he could feel warm energy flowing through his entire body. Rich, dense spirit energy coursing through his veins. His cultivation nearly broke through to the spirit meridian realm on the spot. Everyone devoured the feast. By the end, they felt invigorated, bursting with energy, like they'd ascended to immortality. Where'd you buy this chicken? It's amazing, Liao Ruan asked while gnawing a drumstick. I'll have my grandpa buy me some too. Stop talking and eat, Zimmo barked. Can't your mouth stay busy with food for once? At that moment, atop Green Mountain, a woman descended from the sky. She wore flowing purple robes, her slender figure accentuated with every step. Her long hair was tied up in a bun with a blue ribbon. Her face was exquisite, her aura icy and commanding, so intense it made others avert their eyes. Sixth Grand Elder, is something the matter? Su Qingshan turned to ask. This was the 6th Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground, known as the Moonlight Fairy, real name Shiao Yuin. The 1st to 5th Grand Elders had all cultivated for millennia before reaching the Empyrean Meridian realm, combining seniority and experience to earn their spots. But the 6th and 7th Grand Elders, along with Su Qingshan, had taken a different path. They had shocking natural talent, ascending to the Empyrean Meridian realm in just over 100 years. Their current status had been forged through sheer power and determination. Vice Lord, Shiao Yuin said coldly, I may be leaving the sect for a while. Before I began cultivation, I lived with an elder sister, she explained. But when I committed myself to the martial path and joined the sect, we lost contact. Now that I've reached this point, I find myself thinking about her often. I want to go find her. No problem. Go. Su Qingshan waved his hand. The true martial sacred ground was a tightly run organization. Disciples needed permission to leave. Inner and outer court elders had to report to their superiors. But among the 7 Grand Elders, they typically just informed the Sacred Lord or Vice Lord and were free to go. Of course, Su Qingshan didn't make things difficult. It was mostly a matter of protocol. The sect was a place of belonging for many, but it was also a place of rules. You couldn't just come and go as you pleased, unless one day you were powerful enough to ignore all rules. After leaving the sect, Shiao Yuin flew eastward. She glided through the air with grace and purpose, her purple robes fluttering in the wind, her aura vast and unshakable. As she passed over a forest, the beasts below all trembled in fear. Back on South Goose Mountain, Zimmo stood at the summit, gazing into the eastern sky. Chu Yang, you should be beginning your cultivation journey right about now, he murmured with a twisted smile. The protagonist is about to appear, and the heroines will soon take the stage. The grand story is finally unfolding. He stared into the horizon, thoughts drifting to memories he'd rather forget. By Li Xiao, oh by Li Xiao, in my past life you used me for so long, then kicked me into the abyss. This time we start over. Now I hold the controller. Zimmo laughed as he descended from the peak and made his way to Green Mountain. He wasn't worried. In fact, he felt a strange excitement. After all, every story needs a hero and a villain. Heroes were always blessed by fate, surrounded by miracles, protected by destiny. They had plot armor, cheat items, charisma boosts. Even if they fell off a cliff, they wouldn't die. Instead, they'd find some legendary artifact or a mysterious grandpa who'd teach them martial arts. Beautiful women flocked to them. They had harems full of powerful women who adored them, often with backgrounds that could shake continents. And villains? Villains were always tragic. They played every hand wrong and ended up with their family destroyed, just a stepping stone on the protagonist's path to greatness. But Zimmo believed that heroes only rose because villains were written to be idiots. They had the power to kill the protagonist outright, yet always sent disposable minions instead. They fattened the protagonist up until he could fight back. Zimmo chuckled. Wasn't I one of those brain-dead villains in my last life? He now knew everything about Chu Yang, even the little village he currently lived in. If he wanted to, Zimmo could kill him right now, no need for underlings. He could ask his father, Su Qingshan, an Empyrean Meridian Realm powerhouse, to take action personally. Protagonist or not, 10 lives wouldn't save him. Yes, protagonists had fate's protection, but even that protection had limits. If there were no limits, they wouldn't need to grind their way up from nothing. They could just stroll into the top sects at level 1 and live forever. One attack from an Empyrean Meridian cultivator, even if Chu Yang had some mysterious old grandpa or a reincarnation cheat, he wouldn't survive. All right. Master Mo quickly nodded and called out to the girl resting under the tree. Bailey Xiao, come over here. Someone's looking for you. The girl appeared a bit timid. She glanced at the boy beside her, and under his encouraging gaze, she slowly stepped forward. Bailey Xiao. So your surname is Bailey. Sister, you still can't forget that man. Shiao Yuin murmured softly. She looks so much like her, she said, observing the girl before her. Concerned, she asked, is your mother named Xiao Qingya? Are you Aunt Yuxian? Bailey Xiao pondered for a moment before asking in realization. You know me? Did your mother mention me before she passed? Xiao Yuxian eagerly nodded, her voice filled with emotion. Before she died, my mother often spoke of you. She said she missed you dearly. Bailey Xiao nodded gently. Your mother and I lost our parents when we were young and relied on each other. But back then, I was determined to pursue martial arts and aspired to join the true martial sacred ground. So, I stubbornly left Sunshine Village and lost contact with her. Xiao Yuixuan's eyes welled up as she looked at the girl's coarse cloth attire. Resolutely, she said, now, as the 6th Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground, I can protect you. Would you be willing to come with me to the sect? Bailey Xiao hesitated, her gaze shifting to the boy beside her, eyes filled with inner conflict. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and agree, Master Mo urged anxiously. These youngsters are still naive and don't understand what the true martial sacred ground represents. But he knew this was a golden opportunity. The true martial sacred ground is the undisputed overlord of the far western lands, ruling over vast territories. Even on the primordial heartlands, it's one of the top powers. Moreover, the woman's status within the sect seemed significant. It's okay. Shower. Chu Yang's face was pale, but he forced a smile and encouraged her. Once you're at the true martial sacred ground, train hard. When I have the chance, I'll come find you. Brother Chu Yang, you must come find me. The girl's voice quivered, almost pleading. Don't worry. I will. The boy's voice was firm, exuding an undeniable determination. Bailey Xiao nodded vigorously, then turned to Xiao Yuin and said, Aunt, I'm willing to go with you. Good. Xiao Yuin smiled with satisfaction. She looked at the boy with interest and asked, Your name is Chu Yang? Yes, senior. Chu Yang nodded, somewhat uneasy. Take this bottle of elixirs. Xiao Yuin retrieved a small bottle from her storage ring and handed it to Chu Yang. Inside were 3 crystal-clear pills, looking exceptionally refined. What does this mean, senior? Chu Yang didn't accept the elixirs immediately but frowned and asked. He felt uneasy about this gesture. Was it charity? Don't overthink it. I'm not belittling you or looking down on you, just stating a fact, Xiao Yuin said softly. Shower will leave Sunshine Village with me to join the true martial sacred ground. That's a world beyond your imagination. To be blunt, you two will no longer belong to the same world. I can see she has feelings for you. If you wish to find her at the sect in the future, you'll need some capabilities. These elixirs can cleanse your body and serve as a token from me as an elder. If you achieve something and come to the sect to find her, I won't oppose it. Hearing her words, Chu Yang fell silent. He knew her words were sugar-coated, meant to spare his pride. In the end, she still looked down on him, thinking he wouldn't be worthy of Shower in the future. At that moment, Chu Yang wanted to shout, 30 years east of the river, 30 years west. Don't underestimate a young man. But he remained silent. Why? He had no right to shout that. He wasn't the protagonist of this world. He had no mentor, no cheat codes. He was just an orphan from a small, ordinary village. If he shouted those words, people wouldn't admire him. They'd find him immature, even laughable. Chu Yang, just take them, Bailey Xiao urged gently. She knew Chu Yang had been frail since childhood. Perhaps these elixirs could transform him. All right? Chu Yang finally looked up, forced a smile at the girl, and slowly accepted the elixirs. Xiao Yuin smiled with satisfaction. She didn't see much potential in the boy. She did this to leave a good impression on Bailey Xiao. After all, they had never met before, and this sudden encounter might feel awkward. As for Chu Yang, she didn't care. Once Bailey Xiao joined the true martial sacred ground and experienced that vast world, met more outstanding young talents, she'd realize her current attachments were meaningless. Outstanding people always gravitate toward each other. People strive upward. Xiao Yuin firmly believed, people change. She glanced at Master Mo, waved her right hand, and a pile of elixirs and books appeared on the ground. These cultivation techniques, martial arts manuals, and elixirs are my tokens of gratitude to Sunshine Village, Xiao Yuin said calmly. Thank you, Master Mo exclaimed excitedly. Looking at the pile of elixirs, he was thrilled. Currently at the 9th stage of the Spirit Meridian realm, he knew he had hope of advancing to the Meridian Forging realm. Though he hadn't examined the elixirs yet, Master Mo understood that someone of her status wouldn't offer ordinary items. Xiao Yuin grabbed Bailey Zhao's arm, soared into the sky, and gracefully flew toward the true martial sacred ground. Chu Yang, I'll wait for you. The girl's shout echoed in the air. Chu Yang felt an emptiness inside, as if something precious had been lost. He stared blankly at the girl's departing figure, memories of her smiling face flooding his mind. Rain began to fall from the sky. Chu Yang looked up at the suddenly overcast sky and trudged home. That dilapidated wooden hut leaked from all corners whenever it rained. He sat dazed on the bed, lost in thought. Throughout the ages, I alone am invincible. A hoarse voice suddenly echoed in his ears. Who's there? Who's speaking? Chu Yang was startled, quickly looking around the room. All right, Master Mo quickly nodded and called out to the girl resting under the tree. Bailey Xiao, come over here. Someone's looking for you. The girl appeared a bit timid. She glanced at the boy beside her, and under his encouraging gaze, she slowly stepped forward. Bailey Xiao. So your surname is Bailey. Sister, you still can't forget that man. Shiao Yuin murmured softly. She looks so much like her, she said, observing the girl before her. Concerned, she asked, is your mother named Xiao Qingya? Are you Aunt Yuxian? Bailey Xiao pondered for a moment before asking in realization. You know me? Did your mother mention me before she passed? Xiao Yuxian eagerly nodded, her voice filled with emotion. Before she died, my mother often spoke of you. She said she missed you dearly. Bailey Xiao nodded gently. Your mother and I lost our parents when we were young and relied on each other. But back then, I was determined to pursue martial arts and aspired to join the true martial sacred ground. So, I stubbornly left Sunshine Village and lost contact with her. Xiao Yuixuan's eyes welled up as she looked at the girl's coarse cloth attire. Resolutely, she said, now, as the 6th Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground, I can protect you. Would you be willing to come with me to the sect? Bailey Xiao hesitated, her gaze shifting to the boy beside her, eyes filled with inner conflict. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and agree, Master Mo urged anxiously. These youngsters are still naive and don't understand what the true martial sacred ground represents. But he knew. This was a golden opportunity. The true martial sacred ground is the undisputed overlord of the far western lands, ruling over vast territories. Even on the primordial heartlands, it's one of the top powers. Moreover, the woman's status within the sect seemed significant. It's okay, shower. Chu Yang's face was pale, but he forced a smile and encouraged her. Once you're at the true martial sacred ground, train hard. When I have the chance, I'll come find you. Brother Chu Yang, you must come find me. The girl's voice quivered, almost pleading. Don't worry, I will. The boy's voice was firm, exuding an undeniable determination. Bailey Xiao nodded vigorously, then turned to Xiao Yuxian and said, Aunt, I'm willing to go with you. Good. Xiao Yuxian smiled with satisfaction. She looked at the boy with interest and asked, Your name is Chu Yang? Yes, senior. Chu Yang nodded, somewhat uneasy. Take this bottle of elixirs. Xiao Yuxian retrieved a small bottle from her storage ring and handed it to Chu Yang. Inside were 3 crystal-clear pills, looking exceptionally refined. What does this mean, senior? Chu Yang didn't accept the elixirs immediately but frowned and asked. He felt uneasy about this gesture. Was it charity? Don't overthink it. I'm not belittling you or looking down on you, just stating a fact, Xiao Yuxian said softly. Shower will leave Sunshine Village with me to join the true martial sacred ground. That's a world beyond your imagination. To be blunt, you two will no longer belong to the same world. I can see she has feelings for you. If you wish to find her at the sect in the future, you'll need some capabilities. These elixirs can cleanse your body and serve as a token from me as an elder. If you achieve something and come to the sect to find her, I won't oppose it. Hearing her words, Chu Yang fell silent. He knew her words were sugar-coated, meant to spare his pride. In the end, she still looked down on him, thinking he wouldn't be worthy of shower in the future. At that moment, Chu Yang wanted to shout, 30 years east of the river, 30 years west. Don't underestimate a young man. But he remained silent. Why? He had no right to shout that. He wasn't the protagonist of this world. He had no mentor, no cheat codes. He was just an orphan from a small, ordinary village. If he shouted those words, people wouldn't admire him. They'd find him immature, even laughable. Chu Yang, just take them, Bailey Xiao urged gently. She knew Chu Yang had been frail since childhood. Perhaps these elixirs could transform him. All right? Chu Yang finally looked up, forced a smile at the girl, and slowly accepted the elixirs. Xiao Yuxian smiled with satisfaction. She didn't see much potential in the boy. She did this to leave a good impression on Bailey Xiao. After all, they had never met before, and this sudden encounter might feel awkward. As for Chu Yang, she didn't care. Once Bailey Xiao joined the true martial sacred ground and experienced that vast world, met more outstanding young talents, she'd realize her current attachments were meaningless. Outstanding people always gravitate toward each other. People strive upward. Shiao Yuin firmly believed, people change. She glanced at Master Mo, waved her right hand, and a pile of elixirs and books appeared on the ground. These cultivation techniques, martial arts manuals, and elixirs are my tokens of gratitude to Sunshine Village, Shiao Yuin said calmly. Thank you, Master Mo exclaimed excitedly. Looking at the pile of elixirs, he was thrilled. Currently at the 9th stage of the Spirit Meridian realm, he knew he had hope of advancing to the Meridian Forging realm. Though he hadn't examined the elixirs yet, Master Mo understood that someone of her status wouldn't offer ordinary items. Shiao Yuin grabbed Bailey Zhao's arm, soared into the sky, and gracefully flew toward the true martial sacred ground. Chu Yang, I'll wait for you. The girl's shout echoed in the air. Chu Yang felt an emptiness inside, as if something precious had been lost. He stared blankly at the girl's departing figure, memories of her smiling face flooding his mind. Rain began to fall from the sky. Chu Yang looked up at the suddenly overcast sky and trudged home. That dilapidated wooden hut leaked from all corners whenever it rained. He sat dazed on the bed, lost in thought. Throughout the ages, I alone am invincible. A hoarse voice suddenly echoed in his ears. Who's there? Who's speaking? Chu Yang was startled, quickly looking around the room. Kid, stop looking. I'm right here, inside the ring on your hand, said an aged voice. The ring? Chu Yang was startled. He quickly looked at the ring on his hand, which was now emitting a faint blue glow. This ring was a keepsake from his late mother, who had told him it was a family heirloom but never explained its purpose. Chu Yang had always worn the ring as a token of remembrance for his parents. Surprised, he asked, "Who are you?" He remained calm, knowing he was just an ordinary person with nothing worth scheming over. You can call me Elder Mo, the voice from the ring replied, adding with a sigh, the true martial sacred ground, the sect founded by that fellow Jinhai back in the day. Truly remarkable. Elder Mo. Chu Yang pondered for a moment before asking, why are you hiding inside the ring? That's not something you need to know right now, Elder Mo said. Do you want to rise above others? Do you want to be with your childhood sweetheart forever? I can help you. How can you help? Chu Yang asked nervously. The old man chuckled without answering. Suddenly, a light blue book flew out from the ring. The book looked old and worn, its corners slightly curled, with a yellowed cover bearing several large characters. War Immortal Tactics. What is this? Chu Yang felt an overwhelming battle aura emanating from the title, and a vivid image appeared before his eyes. A man stood atop the heavens, battling the sky and earth, slaying gods and demons, with endless yellow sands and countless bones behind him. The War Immortal Tactics is the cultivation technique of the 37th Grand Emperor of the Imperial Era, the Grand Emperor Bujan. Elder Mo's voice carried a determined momentum, replying earnestly. The young man stared at the book, his pupils dilated, his mind blank, feeling an unparalleled aura surging within him. On South Goose Mountain, Zimmo received a report from a servant that his mother, Wen Yun, had returned to the true martial sacred ground and wanted him to go to Green Mountain. His mother's family, the Wen clan, was not located in the eastern continent but far away in the northern continent. The Wen clan was an enormous family with a transcendent status in the northern continent, only slightly inferior to the true martial sacred ground. This time, his mother had returned to her maiden family to seek the 10 meridian fruit for him, which must have been no easy task. The 10 meridian fruit is a universe-grade spirit fruit that takes 1,000 years to bloom, another 1,000 to bear fruit, and a final 1,000 to ripen. It requires a full 3,000 years to mature, and each tree yields at most 10 fruits. Zimmo arrived again at Green Mountain Peak, where, besides his father Su Qingshan, there was now a woman. The woman wore a bright red robe that draped to the ground, spreading out like a fan. Her jet-black hair was coiled at the back of her head, adorned with delicate and exquisite ornaments. Despite being several hundred years old, his mother showed no signs of aging. Her face was fairer than snow, and upon seeing Su Zimmo, her eyes filled with doting affection. "Moer, come to your mommy?" Wanren Yun embraced Su Zimmo, gently kissing his cheek, and asked with a smile, "Did you miss me while I was away these past few days?" "Mom, I'm already 15. Can you stop kissing me all the time?" Su Zimmo replied helplessly. "What? Feeling shy?" Wanren Yun teased with a smile in her eyes. "Let me tell you, no matter how old you get, you'll always be my son." Faced with his mother's universal response, Su Zimmo was speechless. "This is the 10 meridian fruit your mother went through great lengths to obtain for you. It will greatly aid your cultivation," Wanren Yun said, handing him a fruit. The fruit was about the size of a fist, appearing crystal clear, with a mysterious energy flowing within. The 10 meridian fruit doesn't directly increase strength, but its effects are highly coveted and hard to come by. It is widely known that the human body contains 12 hidden meridian gates. Once all 12 are opened, one can achieve bodily transcendence, breaking free from the constraints of the species, gaining unimaginable longevity and power. Cultivation essentially involves continuously opening these meridian gates to embark on a path of transcendence. Opening meridian gates is challenging, especially in the later stages. The 10 meridian fruit helps beings open these gates more easily. After consuming the fruit, its contained energy divides into 10 parts, hiding around the first 10 meridian gates. When you attempt to open a gate, this hidden energy bursts forth, clearing the surrounding meridians, providing more power to open the gate. However, the 10 meridian fruit's energy only affects the first 10 meridian gates. The last two are too profound to be influenced. The human body is full of wonders. These 12 meridian gates are hidden throughout the body, named Spring Wheel, Deep Bone, Dawn Wind, Vast Sea, Blood Veil, Dusk Pine, Void Verge, Shadowbearer, Voidrend, Prime Circle, Lightbringer, Void Cleave. Su Zimmo accepted the 10 meridian fruit, nodding heavily. He recalled his past life, where after being cast into the Nether Dragon Ravine, his mother, like his father, fell into demonic ways seeking revenge for him, leading to a tragic end. "Father, I have something to discuss with you," Su Zimmo said after a moment of silence, interrupting his thoughts. "What is it?" Su Qingshan looked up slightly. "I heard that in Skysword City, there's a family called the Chong clan, established there for 500 years. They're deeply rooted, but their members are arrogant and domineering, exploiting the people and committing countless atrocities. Even the city lord's authority has been undermined, and they disregard our true martial sacred grounds branch there. You've never left the sect. Where did you hear this?" Su Qingshan asked, surprised. "Did the Chong clan offend you?" "Offend me?" Su Zimmo shook his head. In this life, he hadn't even met anyone from that family. But in his previous life, moreover, setting aside personal grievances, there's something within that family he must obtain. Our true martial sacred ground governs the vast lands of the western region, meaning all people within are our subjects. Now, with so many being oppressed by this family, I believe it's necessary to bring them to justice, Su Zimmo said thoughtfully. "Bullshit," Su Qingshan said sternly. "You barely step outside, so where are you getting this information from? Even if we're to impose sanctions, we need evidence. As the rulers of the Western region, our true martial sacred ground must set an example. We can't let others think we abuse our power." Su Qingshan was furious. He didn't want his son turning into a spoiled brat, relying on his father's status to act recklessly. "Mom, Dad's being mean to me," Su Zimmo said, turning to his mother with a pitiful look. "Can't you speak nicely? Why are you scolding our son?" Wanren Yun walked up and tugged on Su Qingshan's ear without hesitation. "It's just a minor clan. If you're worried about our reputation, I'll personally wipe them out. Didn't we agree you'd give me face in public? Let go." Su Qingshan stood up, complaining. What would a woman understand? Oh? Now you're looking down on me. Wanren Yun's anger flared. She began to cry and shout. So now you despise me? Back then, who was it lurking outside my house every day just to catch a glimpse of me? Don't think I didn't notice. If I hadn't seen your sincerity, would I have been with you? Stop it. Our son's right here. Can't we talk about this later? Su Qingshan quickly covered her mouth, pleading. Don't stop me. I want to say it. Wanren Yun slapped his hand away, her crying intensifying. Now that you've got me, you start to despise me. Humph. Men are all pigs. Seeing things spiral out of control, Su Qingshan decided to take charge. He grabbed Wanren Yun's head with both hands and kissed her deeply. Instantly, Wanren Yun quieted down, and the two began kissing passionately. Su Zimmo was speechless. Hey, you two, there's still a living person here. Can you consider my feelings? Get lost. What a trashy family. I'll have the Dark Legion deal with them. Su Qingshan waved him off impatiently without turning around. Su Zimmo then saw his mother raise her right hand slightly and wave at him. Damn, wasn't he just talking about needing evidence and considering the sex reputation? How did he change his tune so quickly? Frustrated by the public display of affection, Su Zimmo left Green Mountain. Men, he muttered. Back at South Goose Mountain, Su Zimmo resumed his cultivation. He consumed the 10 meridian fruit his mother had given him, preparing to break through to the spirit meridian realm. To advance, one must open the first meridian gate within the body, the spring wheel gate. After taking the fruit, Su Zimmo felt a warm energy flow through him, settling in various parts of his body. The spring wheel gate is located on the back of the left hand. Opening it posed no challenge for Su Zimmo. He directed energy from the mysterious bead within him. With his previous cultivation at the God Meridian realm, he advanced effortlessly. Combining the energy from the 10 meridian fruit, he broke through the spring wheel gate. He felt a sudden clarity, as if his mind had sharpened. Spiritual energy surged within him. On his left hand, a symbol of yin-yang appeared, transparent, lacking the typical black and white division. The symbol had a light blue outer ring and a glowing dot at its center. When he activated his power, a bang sounded as the meridian gate opened. A similar, larger symbol appeared a few centimeters above his hand, an external manifestation of the gate's activation. After opening the spring wheel gate and reaching the first level of the spirit meridian realm, Su Zimmo didn't stop. He continued channeling energy, pushing his cultivation further. Spirit Meridian Realm Stage 1. Spirit Meridian Realm Stage 2. Spirit Meridian Realm Stage 9. He halted just before advancing to the Meridian Forging Realm. This rapid progression gave him confidence to reach the God Meridian Realm within a year. He planned to stabilize his foundation before attempting the next breakthrough. The next morning, Lin Ruhu arrived at South Goose Mountain. With his grandfather's help, he had begun body-tempering cultivation the previous day. Su Zimmo glanced at Lin Ruhu, who still had a candy in his mouth and a runny nose. What technique did you choose at the scripture vault yesterday? He asked. My grandfather picked the true martial sword art for me, Lin Ruhu replied. That technique doesn't suit you. Su Zimmo shook his head. From past experience, he knew Lin Ruhu was better suited for brute force cultivation, simple, direct, and physically intense techniques. The true martial sword art was too refined for him. Should I go back and choose another? Lin Ruhu asked. No need. The true martial sacred ground doesn't currently have a suitable imperial technique for you, Su Zimmo said. But I have one that fits you. You must promise not to reveal its source to anyone, not even your grandfather. Just say it was a fortunate encounter. Don't worry, Brother Zimmo, Lin Ruhu said firmly. Su Zimmo nodded. He trusted Lin Ruhu but wanted to be cautious. He didn't want anyone to know about his reincarnation. Su Zimmo picked up a pen and wrote extensively on a sheet of paper. Based on his past life's memories, he transcribed a technique called Strength Scripture. The creator of Strength Scripture was Grand Emperor Bao. Grand Emperor Bao was the 6th emperor of the imperial era and the 1st emperor of the beastfolk. His true form was a brown bear with a desolate bloodline. In that era, he used his iron fists to reach the pinnacle of the heavens. He believed that nothing in the world couldn't be solved with a punch, and if one punch didn't work, then two. Eventually, he fulfilled his destiny and became an emperor. His strength scripture became a coveted technique for countless strength path cultivators. Lin Ruhu looked at the cultivation technique Zimmo had written down. After reading it once, his eyes lit up. He felt that the cultivation method suited him perfectly. In the past, he hadn't been very interested in cultivation. His current technique had even been chosen by his grandfather. But now, after seeing the technique Zimmo gave him, he felt a spark of excitement he'd never experienced before. The technique, strength scripture, required the user to absorb the blood of countless heavenly beasts into their body, specifically those known for their immense physical strength. Around midday, a bald man in black clothing arrived at Zimmo's courtyard. "I am Dark 13. By the order of the Vice Lord, I'm here to accompany you to Skyward City," the bald man announced. He wore all black, had a burly frame, and a prominent scar across his face. Combined with his bald head, he gave off a very intimidating presence. Dark 13. He must be one of my father's Dark Legion, Zimmo thought to himself. He turned to Lin Ruhu and said, "Ruhu, go to the missions chamber and post a mission. As for the details, just write that it's to accompany me on a trip to Skyward City. The reward is 10 spirit crystals per person, and I only need 3 people. Their cultivation must be at the meridian forging realm or higher. We depart in 3 hours." "Got it." Lin Ruhu nodded and left for the missions chamber. Zimmo looked at Dark 13 and asked with interest, "What's your cultivation level?" "I'm at the desolate meridian realm," Dark 13 said, scratching his bald head with a goofy smile. Zimmo rubbed his chin and mused. If nothing unexpected happens, the strongest in the Chong clan should only be at the true meridian realm, having opened 3 meridian gates at most. That afternoon, Lin Ruhu returned from the missions chamber with 3 others. 2 men and 1 woman. Among them, the man and woman were at the meridian forging realm, while the other man in green robes had reached the true meridian realm. Junior brother Zimmo, they greeted upon meeting, then introduced themselves. The man and woman were named Tang Huayuan and Xiao Yu, respectively. The young man at the true meridian realm introduced himself as Feng Buyu. "Thanks for coming," Zimmo said with a smile. The 3 quickly waved their hands, saying, "We don't deserve the thanks." The group then went to the Sex Beast Pavilion, where they hired a few first-rank spirit beasts, soaring sand horses, for travel towards Skyward City. Among the group, only Dark 13 had reached the desolate meridian realm and could fly on his own. The others had to ride spirit beasts. As they left the sect, Zimmo suddenly felt something and looked up at the sky. He saw Elder 6, Shiao Yuin, flying overhead with a young girl. The girl seemed to sense something too and glanced down, locking eyes with Zimmo for a moment. "Oh, the plot is finally starting," Zimmo smiled. "By Li Xiao, welcome to the true martial sacred ground." After a long journey, by dusk, the group arrived at a small village and decided to spend the night there. 10-mile desolate village. Zimmo read the name on the stone marker at the village entrance and chuckled. Interesting. Very interesting. They were greeted by the village chief, a middle-aged man in a black fur vest. "I'm the chief of 10-mile desolate village. You can just call me Wang Tao," the man said heartily. He then led the group to his house. Along the way, villagers peeked out from their homes, curiously eyeing the outsiders. They politely declined the dinner Wang Tao had prepared and returned to their rooms. "There's something strange about this village," Feng Buyu said, frowning. "What's strange about it?" Lin Ruhu asked curiously. "I feel it too," said Xiao Yu, the only woman in the group. "Something's off, but I can't quite put my finger on it." "Why overthink it? Just get some sleep." Zimmo chuckled and headed outside. "Brother Zimmo, where are you going?" Lin Ruhu asked. "Just taking a walk," Zimmo replied, then turned to Dark 13. 13, don't follow me. I can handle myself. Leaving the house, Zimmo walked toward the west end of the village. He walked along a cobblestone path. A light breeze blew by, and a few dim lights flickered from the houses on either side. He arrived at a small shop in the western corner. A yellow banner fluttered on a wooden beam above the door. On it were the words, 10-Mile Blacksmith Shop. It was already late, and the shop's light glowed a dim amber. Inside, a man in black clothes was still hard at work. He wasn't particularly muscular, if anything, he was a bit skinny. In one hand he held an unfinished sword, in the other a heavy hammer. Every time the hammer fell, a loud clang rang out. The man pounded away tirelessly. If one watched long enough, they'd notice that his strikes followed a consistent rhythm. Zimmo sat on a stone stool outside the shop, watching the man with great interest. The man worked swiftly. Once the sword's form was finished, he placed it into the forge. After a while, he pulled the red-hot sword out, barehanded, and blew on it gently before plunging it into a nearby water tank. Hisses! A cloud of white steam burst out. The water around the blade actually began to boil. Want to learn? The man suddenly asked, turning to Zimmo. You couldn't teach me, Zimmo replied with a grin. The man didn't argue. He took the sword from the water and walked back inside. Even if you're the sword sovereign, it wouldn't be enough, Zimmo said calmly. The man's steps halted. He slowly turned back around. In his eyes, it was as if countless swords exploded into view, sword energy slicing through the air as his aura grew stronger and stronger. He stared intently at Zimmo. I'm curious, Zimmo said without flinching. Why would the sword sovereign 10-mile vast sky choose to live as a humble blacksmith in a tiny village? It's none of your business, 10-mile vast sky replied with a calm, magnetic voice. I think I can help you, Zimmo said. He knew 10-mile vast sky was currently lost. The man had already opened 5 meridian gates, reaching the realm of a sword sovereign. The next step was to forge his own unique martial Dao. But he was stuck, uncertain. After dedicating his life to the sword, he now hesitated. He wasn't sure which path to take, or which one was right for him. How can you help? 10-mile vast sky didn't question it. He just asked calmly. I have the Heavenly Chant Sword Manual that was cultivated by the Grand Emperor Yin Tian, as well as the 3-talent sword formation left behind by Grand Emperor Sankai. Zimmo replied slowly. What 10-mile vast sky lacked right now was experience. He had no path laid by predecessors to draw from. Don't be fooled by how casually Zimmo mentioned these imperial techniques. The truth was, such techniques were unimaginably rare and valuable. At 10-mile vast sky's level, he had never even encountered an emperor's cultivation manual. It was like the old saying, 10 years of hard work can't match being born into the right family. What's the catch? 10-mile vast sky knew well that nothing in the world came free. I plan to form a new force. I'd like you to manage it, Zimmo replied. No way. I'll never be someone else's subordinate, 10-mile vast sky said firmly. My sword Dao is about forging ahead without compromise. If I have to live under someone else's roof, my heart won't be at peace. And if that's the case, how can I walk the path of the sword? A true swordsman must be sharp and unyielding, but must also know how to sheath the sword, Zimmo said with a smile. Just like in life, sometimes you stand tall, sometimes you bow and smile. Seeing 10-mile vast sky deep in thought, Zimmo continued. Maybe some people's martial path is about never retreating. Like the Grand Emperor Sandao, he took extremity to the limit. To him, defense was meaningless. Even if he died by another's blade, he never retreated, and neither did his sword. But you are not that kind of extreme man. If you were, you wouldn't be hiding in this village, willing to live as a common blacksmith. Your sword should be able to advance and retreat as needed. Unsheathed, it should split the heavens. Sheathed, it should conceal its light, return to the ordinary. Zimmo's words stirred something in 10-mile vast sky. He was lost in thought for a long time. It felt like he was on the verge of grasping something. But the more he reached, the more confused he became. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Zimmo said as he stood up and slowly walked back to his room. "The opportunity is yours to take or leave. To me, a true Meridian Realm cultivator isn't rare. I just happened to pass by and saw your potential. But for you, this kind of opportunity doesn't come often. Even if others had imperial techniques to offer, they might not suit you as well as these two do." Watching Zimmo's figure disappear, 10-mile vast sky furrowed his brow deeply and stood in silence for a long time. Late that night, he finally stood up, resolute. Grabbing the sword he had just forged, he walked into the village. The wind kicked up clouds of dust, and his silhouette gradually faded into the night. It was as if the legendary sword sovereign had returned once more. The night passed quietly. Early the next morning, the peaceful sun shone down. After cultivating all night, Zimmo felt full of energy. "Strange. Nothing happened last night," Bayou commented. "You sound disappointed. Hoping for danger?" Zimmo joked as he stretched and walked out with the others. The moment they stepped outside, they sensed something was wrong. Too quiet. Far too quiet. The entire desolate village was dead silent. There was a faint scent of blood in the air. Bayou kicked open the door of one of the nearby houses, and a wave of thick blood stench hit him. All the villagers had been slaughtered in their sleep last night. Even the village head Wang Tao, who had hosted them the night before, now lay in a pool of blood on his bed. "Everyone is dead," Bayou said after a moment of silence. "I finally realized what was wrong," Shiao Yuin shouted. "Since we arrived yesterday, we never saw any old people, children, or women. Everyone in this village was a young, able-bodied man." The others immediately caught on. These people were definitely not ordinary villagers. Bayou frowned. "But then, who killed them?" "Vast sky." "So you made your choice," Zimmo said calmly. Even as he looked upon the massacre, he didn't seem surprised at all. He walked over to the village well, drew a bucket of water, washed up like nothing had happened. "Junior brother Zimmo, do you know something?" Bayou asked, frowning. Zimmo was too calm. Even after seeing so many dead, he hadn't so much as flinched. "What's the point of dwelling on this?" Zimmo replied with a smile. "It's irrelevant and meaningless." Then he turned and walked toward the village entrance. "Let's get moving. If we hurry, we'll reach Skysword City by noon." With their own thoughts weighing on them, the group rode their soaring sand horses out of the village. As they neared the village entrance, a man suddenly stumbled out of one of the nearby houses. "Help! Help me!" The man was gravely wounded, coughing blood, barely clinging to life. Zimmo dismounted and slowly walked over to him. Looking into the man's pleading eyes, Zimmo drew the curved blade on his back. Shadow Tyrant. With one clean stroke, he split the man in two. The dying man's eyes were still filled with desperate hope. Bayou wanted to say something but stopped himself. In the end, he stayed silent. He felt that Zimmo was too cold-hearted. If they had saved the man, he might have told them who had slaughtered the village. But with his death, all leads were now gone. Or could it be that Zimmo had killed all the villagers? But then again, Zimmo had stayed in the room all night. He hadn't gone out. Zimmo looked at Shadow Tyrant, now bloodied for the first time, and sheathed it back with a smooth motion. Then he jumped back on his soaring sand horse and galloped ahead. Now, not only was Bayou confused, Shiao Yuin and Tang Huayuan were also deeply puzzled. Dark 13 silently followed beside Zimmo. He didn't care about the situation. His only job was to protect Zimmo. As for Lin Ruhu, he was still the same easygoing onlooker. He had a big heart and full faith in Zimmo. Whatever Zimmo did, he believed there was a reason behind it. If Zimmo wanted to talk, he'd listen. If not, he wouldn't ask. Just as they exited Desolate Village, they saw a man already waiting for them ahead. It was 10-mile vast sky, dressed in white, riding a crimson mane horse. A golden long sword hung from his waist. His black hair flowed behind him. His eyes were as sharp as blades, making it hard to look at him directly. From afar, he looked like a noble and imposing figure. The people in that village were all cruel bandits, 10-mile vast Sky said calmly. Their identities don't matter to me, Zimmo said, shaking his head. I only care about the outcome. Zimmo didn't consider himself a bad person, but he definitely wasn't a good one either. He didn't care about public opinion or how others felt. He simply did whatever he wanted. When he was in a good mood, he might save strangers. When in a bad mood, he could just as easily slaughter an entire city that had nothing to do with him. Zimmo once heard a story. A god once asked a demon, "Why is it that when I kill just one person, everyone condemns me, but when you save one life, they sing your praises?" The demon replied, "Because you've saved so many people before, now that you've killed someone, they can't handle the contrast. But I've always been a butcher, hands stained with blood. If I suddenly save one life, of course they'll praise the change." It was a story full of irony. For a good person to become a Buddha, they must suffer countless trials and hardships. But a bad person? All they have to do is drop their blade, and they're instantly considered enlightened. The moment Vast Sky appeared, Dark 13 felt a strong pressure. "This one's a real expert," he muttered, hands gripping the sword at his waist, body tense and on full alert. "He's one of us. Relax," Zimmo said to the others. The group rode out together. Feng Buyu and the others still couldn't figure Zimmo out. He was far too mysterious. This whole situation was beyond their understanding. And who was this new man that had suddenly joined them? By midday, drifting clouds had covered half the blazing sun, and the weather cooled slightly. The group finally arrived at Skysword City. This ancient city had a history stretching back nearly 1,000 years. It stood like a massive beast resting on the land. From a distance, Skysword City looked like a giant sword piercing the sky, sharp and overwhelming. Its brown city walls stood dozens of meters tall. Standing beneath them, one could feel an oppressive aura. The silent walls seemed to whisper tales of past glory. Although the true martial sacred ground ruled over the far west, it rarely managed the individual cities. Most of the time, it acted more like a watcher from above. Over this western region, there were two major empires: Violet Sun Empire and Azure Wood Empire. Skysword City was one of the cities under the jurisdiction of the Violet Sun Empire. As the group entered the city, the bluestone-paved streets were crowded and bustling. Vendors on both sides shouted to attract customers. Steam still rose from freshly made buns, and the aroma of stir-fried spirit beast meat filled the air from nearby restaurants. Other stalls sold martial techniques, weapons, and pills. Zimmo had brought along the two dark sky tiger cubs with him this time. He and Lin Ruhu each carried one. Stroking the sleeping cub in his arms, Zimmo smiled and said, "Let's find an inn first. Junior brother Zimmo, our sect has a branch in every city. We can head straight there," Feng Buyu suggested. Zimmo chuckled and said, "The branch in Skysword City might as well not exist. Still, let's go check it out." Just as they were about to head out, they suddenly heard the urgent sounds of galloping hooves nearby. Zimmo looked up to see a luxurious carriage charging through the city gates. The stage 2 spirit beast, a snow-stepping war stallion, pulling the carriage had clearly gone wild. It trampled over several pedestrians in its frenzy. The carriage was barreling straight toward Zimmo's group. The panicked coachman shouted, "Move! Get out of the way!" Feng Buyu narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, bang bang bang, 3 of his vein gates opened in sequence. He stepped to the front, hands glowing with a yellow light. He made the first move. Meridian Art, Primal Vajra Palm. As the crazed snow-stepping warhorse charged in, Feng Buyu slid one foot back, grabbed the reins on either side with both hands, and shifted his body slightly to divert the force. With a twist, the horse's body buckled and swerved to the right. Because of the momentum, it stumbled and crashed hard into the ground. The coachman was thrown out, and the luxurious carriage behind them shattered into splinters. "Young miss, are you all right?" A squad of black armored guards rushed over. The leader was an old man in a black robe that completely concealed his body. Ow! That fall nearly killed me. A young woman's voice called from within the wreckage. Who dared trip up this lady's precious war horse? She shouted, climbing out of the destroyed carriage. She looked to be about 17 or 18, wore her hair in a ponytail, and had on a fine white brocade robe. She radiated spoiled arrogance. Feng Buyu replied flatly, It was your prized horse that went berserk and charged at us. I'll give you two choices, the girl said, eyeing the group. Her gaze lit up when she saw the dark sky tiger cub in Zimmo's arms. Either you hand over that little tiger to me, or I'll have my men chop you into pieces and feed you to the dogs. What a big mouth! Feng Buyu snorted coldly. Skyward City has its own laws. Does the city lord's estate just let you people go around killing at will? Zimmo glanced at Feng Buyu, thinking, this guy clearly knows nothing about how dangerous the world really is. If you were just an ordinary person and offended the wrong people, even if they couldn't kill you in broad daylight, they could still sneak in at night and make you disappear. And who would care? City lord's estate? The girl scoffed. Do you even know who I am? You're from the city lord's family? Feng Buyu looked around at the black armored guards now surrounding them and finally caught on. Meanwhile, the surrounding vendors and residents quickly backed away, whispering amongst themselves. Those people don't look like locals. Judging by their clothes, they're probably from somewhere important, but unfortunately, they've pissed off the city lord's daughter. Everyone knows how spoiled Zhong Linger is. The girl stood with her hands on her hips, full of attitude. Now that you know who I am, I assume you know what to do next. Hand over the two tiger cubs, and I might consider letting you walk away. Feng Buyu looked towards Zimmo, waiting for his signal. It's fine. Why fuss with a little girl? Let's go find a place to stay, Zimmo said with a smile, turning and walking toward the side street. Hey, did I say you could leave? Zhong Linger, seeing the group about to walk away, grew anxious. Little girl, Zimmo turned back and said calmly. You should know when to quit. I'm only sparing you because I don't care to argue. Otherwise, even if your father is the city lord, or the emperor of the Violet Sun Empire himself, it wouldn't make a difference. Zhong Linger froze. Zimmo's words genuinely startled her. She quickly turned to the black-robed elder beside her and said, Uncle Liang, that guy bullied me. But the old man simply shook his head slightly and stared thoughtfully at Zimmo's departing figure. At that moment, the black-armored guards had already surrounded Zimmo's group. As they tried to leave, they were blocked. Move, Zimmo said quietly. The guards didn't budge. Instead, they looked to Zhong Linger. Without her command, they wouldn't let anyone through. Then, in a flash, a dazzling arc of blade light swept through the air. No one even saw Zimmo draw his blade. In the blink of an eye, several guards' heads rolled to the ground. Feng Buyu's pupils shrank. Sword drawing technique. It was just a basic yellow-tier meridian skill, but even he hadn't seen Zimmo draw the blade. That speed was beyond comprehension. Watching Zimmo's group walk away, Zhong Linger stomped her foot in frustration. She turned to the elder and said, Uncle Liang, why didn't you stop them earlier? There are several among them I can't see through. The old man, Uncle Liang, replied thoughtfully. We don't know who these people really are, so it's best not to act rashly. That one just now, he spoke of the Violet Sun Empire like it was nothing. Someone like that is either bluffing or carries immense backing. Then what do we do? Zhong Linger asked. Uncle Liang ordered one of the guards. Follow them quietly. See where they're staying. Then he turned to Zhong Linger and said, No rush, young miss. They're in Skyward City. They won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Zimmo's group arrived at the True Martial Sacred Grounds branch hall in Skyward City. The man in charge of the branch was named Guan Jinhai. Generally, the sect only assigned disciples with poor potential to manage these branches. Guan Jinhai was in his 40s, still stuck at the peak of the meridian forging realm, unable to break through. According to sect rules, if a disciple couldn't reach the true meridian realm before the age of 40, They were assigned to manage branch halls in cities. After hearing of Su Zimmo's group's arrival, Guan Jinhai rushed out with a warm smile. "Junior brothers, you've come such a long way. I didn't know in advance, or I would have prepared better," he said cheerfully. "If there's any neglect on my part, please forgive me." "It's fine," Su Zimmo said with a shake of his head. "We're just passing through Skysword City and felt like stopping by." "Then come in, please," Guan Jinhai said eagerly. "I'll have food and drinks prepared right away, give you all a proper welcome." Su Zimmo and the others wandered around the branch for a bit. It was clear that most people assigned here were essentially being sidelined by the sect. And the disciples here seemed fully aware of that. Each of them looked like they were just killing time, completely lacking the spirit and drive of real martial artists. Su Zimmo shook his head. "Innate talent might be something you're born with. Maybe you get lucky, or maybe someone powerful changes your fate. But lacking talent wasn't the end. Hard work could still make the difference." Hong Tian was a prime example. But if your attitude and mindset toward cultivation are flawed, then you're doomed to mediocrity no matter what. Soon, Guan Jinhai arranged for a meal at the best restaurant in Skysword City, Bright Moon Tower. The restaurant had a stellar reputation across the entire city, famous for its exceptional food. Private rooms were all full, so with Su Zimmo's approval, they took a window-side table. After everyone sat down, the conversation was light and pleasant. Guan Jinhai had a knack for making people feel welcome. But before long, a young man strode up to the second floor. He wore luxurious robes and had a beauty in each arm. A servant followed behind him. The young man ignored all the other diners and shouted at the restaurant owner, "Boss, I'm renting out the whole place today. Clear everyone out within 15 minutes. Master Chong, please, don't make this difficult for me," the boss said nervously. "There are some people here today I can't afford to offend." "Oh," the young man scoffed. "Who dares not give the Chong clan face?" "The true martial sacred grounds branch people," the boss said, pointing towards Su Zimmo's table. Only then did the young man notice Guan Jinhai. He smiled and walked over quickly. "Uncle Guan, you're here too? My father was just talking the other day about inviting you over for dinner." "Ah, Wei," Guan Jinhai smiled back. "Just having a meal here with a few fellow brothers from the sect." "Uncle Guan, could I ask a favor?" the young man said quietly. "The third prince of the Violet Sun Empire is visiting our clan right now, and I wanted to treat him here at Bright Moon Tower. If it's convenient, perhaps you and your friends could dine at my home instead, and leave this place for us." The young man kept speaking only to Guan Jinhai and hadn't even glanced at Su Zimmo's group once. In his eyes, anyone managing a branch hall must have low talent, and so were probably surrounded by similarly unremarkable friends. "Wei," Guan Jinhai replied while throwing frantic glances at him. "I'm afraid that won't work today. I'm here to host these brothers properly." "Damn it," he thought. "That's Su Zimmo, the Vice Lord's only son, a true heir to the sacred ground. If this kid could connect with Su Zimmo, even the third prince would be irrelevant trash by comparison." But the young man, Chong Wei, completely missed the hint. He just smiled and looked at Su Zimmo's group. "Dear brothers from the true martial sacred ground, could you do me a small favor? You'd always be welcome guests at our Chong clan estate." "You're Chong Wei?" Su Zimmo asked with interest. Chong Wei quickly nodded. "Do you know someone named Lifu?" Su Zimmo asked. The servant behind Chong Wei blinked in confusion. "Are you looking for me?" Su Zimmo chuckled and shook his head. "So, what do you all say?" Chong Wei asked. "You really think you're some kind of local emperor, don't you?" Lin Ruhu said impatiently from the side. "Scram! Kid! How dare you speak to my young master like that?" Before Chong Wei could even respond, his servant Lifu stepped forward, unable to hold back. Su Zimmo gave Dark 13 a glance. Everyone heard a crisp clang, and a line of blood sprayed from Lifu's neck. His body crashed heavily to the floor. You killed him." Chong Wei backed up in fear, his face full of shock. "Junior brother." Guan Jinhai looked uneasy too. "Killing someone over a few words? That was way too aggressive. Go home and tell your father, Zimmo said with a faint smile. I'll personally visit the Chong clan tomorrow at noon. You? Chong Wei pointed at Zimmo, lost for words. After a long pause, he finally nodded and said, Fine. The Chong clan will be waiting for you. As Chong Wei hurried away, Guan Jinhai frowned slightly and turned to Zimmo. Junior brother, why did you do that? Senior brother, have some more food. This meat tastes great. Zimmo replied with a smile, dodging the question. He picked up a slice of meat with his chopsticks and called out, Boss, clean up this body. It's an eyesore. Yes, sir, yes, sir. The owner of Bright Moon Tower came up quickly with 2 staff members and carried the body away in a hurry. Then he smiled at Zimmo and said, If the food doesn't suit your taste, please don't hesitate to say so. This meal is on me today. It's my honor to serve such distinguished guests. No need for that. Just charge us the regular price, Zimmo said, shaking his head with a smile. We're not the dine and dash type. After the meal, Zimmo turned to Guan Jinhai with a grin. Senior brother Guan, does Skysword City have a pleasure district? Pleasure district? Oh, come on. Guan Jinhai waved his hand. But we do have a place all the romantic scholars love to visit. I can take you there. You're talking about Cloud Mist Pavilion, aren't you? Zimmo narrowed his eyes and asked. Looks like you've heard of it too, junior brother. Guan Jinhai nodded quickly. But the women there, strictly performers, not for sale. If you've really got charm, and you can make one of them follow you willingly, now that's a story worth telling. Let's go take a look, Zimmo said with a grin. Tang Huayuan, Xiao Yu, and Feng Bayou had no interest in such places and returned to the branch hall early. Zimmo, Lin Ruhu, Dark 13, and 10 Mile Vast Sky went to Cloud Mist Pavilion. The Cloud Mist Pavilion sat by the moat of Skysword City. It was a modest 3-story building made of green cloud bamboo. The spring breeze brushed gently past, rippling the river's surface. Willows swayed along the banks. It was a peaceful, pleasant scene. The entrance was lively, with 2 elegant young women welcoming guests. There were refined scholars and blood-stained warriors alike. On the boats drifting across the water, courtesans sipped wine with poets, reciting verses amid a setting of moonlight and petals. Zimmo and his group entered the pavilion. It was spacious inside, packed with guests. At the center, 5 graceful women played instruments and danced. Lin Ruhu looked every bit the rich playboy. He tossed a spirit crystal onto the table and shouted, Madam, bring out your best girl. The top courtesan. Well now, young master, you're a new face, said the madam, a charming woman still in her prime, swaying her curvy figure as she walked over with a smile. Cut the chatter. I said bring out your best girl, Lin Ruhu said, acting every bit the spoiled young master. No need to rush, young master, the madam chuckled, running her hand over Lin Ruhu's chest flirtatiously. Our top girl, Bayou, isn't receiving guests today, but I can introduce you to some other fine ladies. I promise they'll keep you entertained. Why is she not seeing guests? Am I not handsome enough? Or is my money not good enough? Lin Ruhu asked, dramatically flipping his scarf. It's nothing like that, the madam smiled. But Miss Bayou once left behind a painting with a question. She said, if someone can answer it correctly, she'll grant them one request, whatever it is. Sounds exciting. Lin Ruhu grinned. Show me the painting. Zimmo asked with interest. What's her full name? She's surnamed Ji. Her full name is Ji Bayou, the madam replied. Sword dance immortal. Ji Bayou, Zimmo murmured, then smiled to himself. The madam led the group to a side hall, which was already filled with scholars and gentlemen. A painting hung on the wall across the room. It depicted a vividly detailed white crane. The crane stood in a filthy swamp, one foot planted in the muck, the other slightly raised, as if balancing in a crane stance. Miss Bayou's question is this, the madam said, smiling. Why is the white crane standing like that in the muddy swamp? Because cranes are clean creatures. It doesn't want to get dirty, Lin Ruhu offered. You're close, the madam said with a smile. But that's not the answer Miss Bayou is looking for. Others began chiming in with their guesses. Maybe the crane is practicing a special martial art? It's showing off how proud and aloof it is. It's taking a dump. Everyone tried to guess, but the madam simply shook her head calmly. Some guests had already come multiple times, only to leave disappointed once again. You all call yourselves romantic scholars, Zimmo chuckled. But clearly none of you understand a woman's heart. Why mock us, brother? Someone nearby said. You're no different from us. Unless you know the answer? This is easy, Zimmo said with a shake of his head. Ruhu already said half of it earlier. The crane stands on one leg to avoid the mud. Miss Bayou is comparing herself to the crane. Even though she lives in this world of poetry and pleasure, she still strives to stay above the filth, just like the crane, lifting one foot to remain unstained in a dirty world. Unstained by the mire, cleansed by pure ripples, yet never vulgar. As he spoke, the crowd seemed to light up. Everything suddenly clicked. Please wait here, young master, the madam said, eyes wide with surprise. I'll go inform Miss Bayou right away. As she walked away, the crowd buzzed around Zimmo, asking for his name. But Zimmo just shook his head and whispered to vast sky beside him, Come up with me in a moment. That woman, she's no ordinary courtesan. I'm not in the habit of intruding on others. Vast Sky spoke as he sat to the side, sipping tea with a smile. What if I end up offending the lady? This woman's not simple. Be careful you don't stumble in a place you think is safe, Zimmo warned, saying no more. About 3 minutes later, the madam returned with a warm smile. She said to Zimmo, Young master, Miss Bayou said if you don't mind, would you care to visit her chamber? Let's go, Zimmo said casually to Vast Sky. Under the envious gaze of everyone present, the two made their way upstairs. Vast Sky didn't enter the room, he stayed posted outside the door. Zimmo opened it, and a delicate fragrance drifted out. It smelled like a blend of roses and peonies, subtle and alluring. The room was divided into an outer sitting area and an inner chamber. Zimmo strolled in lazily. The outer room was simply furnished. Pink walls were adorned with feminine decorations. Gauzy rainbow-colored drapes hung down, gently concealing the doorway to the inner chamber. Soft zither music flowed from within, calm and elegant, like a stream winding through a garden. The entrance to the inner room was veiled by a thin layer of pink silk. Through it, Zimmo could vaguely make out the silhouette of a woman, seated and playing the instrument. Women always love their theatrics, Zimmo said with a smirk as he pulled aside the veil and entered. The inner chamber was clearly a lady's boudoir. A pink, plush bed, and a vanity by the window to the left. Directly ahead sat a sandalwood table, behind which the woman plucked her instrument with elegant hands, glancing at Zimmo with a playful smile in her eyes. The music came to a stop. The woman covered her mouth and laughed gently. You're quite the interesting one, young master. When I meet people, they're usually dazzled by my beauty. But you walked in and started inspecting the room instead. Some things I see with my eyes, Zimmo said with a grin. But some people, I see with my heart. Only then did he take a good look at the woman. She wore a white embroidered dress, the tight bodice hugging her graceful figure. Over it, she had draped a sheer white shawl. Her features were striking, refined, and noble. Elegant brows, a tall nose bridge, big dark eyes, and small cherry lips. Her long black hair flowed freely down her back, tied with a pink silk ribbon into a soft bow. What did you think of my music, young master? Bayou asked with a smile. Your service needs work. You didn't even pour me tea, Zimmo said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. He poured himself a cup and then asked, Do you know any battle tunes? The kind with real power, blood-boiling stuff. This gentle, romantic kind you just played, I can't appreciate it. Can't even judge if it was good or not. Bayou studied Zimmo seriously, lips pursed slightly. You really are different from the others. What's so different? I've got one mouth, two eyes. It's not like I've got 3 heads and 6 arms. Zimmo replied with a grin. You've got a unique presence, Bayou said thoughtfully. Not charm exactly, but you definitely don't follow the crowd. That's not worth much praise, Zimmo said, shaking his head. I just don't conform, that's all. And what do you think of me? Bayou asked suddenly. What do you mean? Zimmo asked back. I'm just a courtesan in a pleasure house. Do you see me as some cheap, flirtatious woman, someone not worth respecting? Bayou's voice turned soft, her expression sorrowful. The tone, the sadness in her eyes, it stirred a desire to protect her in anyone watching. Of course not, Zimmo said as he gently set down his tea, smiling at her. If I were the type to look down on you, the founder of Cloud Mist Pavilion, one of the 24 sword immortals, the sword dance immortal Bayou, then who in this world would be worthy of my respect? Bayou's expression froze for a moment. Then she smiled and said, So, you knew all along. She sat up straight, no longer playing the delicate, pitiful woman. Instead, she revealed a composed and confident grace. And here I was putting on a whole performance for you, and you didn't even blink, Zimmo said with a smirk. Then what brings you to me, young master? Bayou asked. If Cloud Mist Pavilion has offended you, say the word. I'll make it right. Zimmo didn't answer. He simply took a sip of tea and let out a long breath. Good tea. If you like it, I can give you some, Bayou replied with a smile. It's made with a secret recipe of mine. You won't find it anywhere else. Is that so? Zimmo's gaze turned nostalgic. He said slowly, I seem to remember tasting this tea a long time ago. I think it was in a place called Forest Cloud City, up in the northern continent. And you know what's funny? There was a small clan there with the same surname as yours, Word had it they were descendants of the Grand Emperor Bayou. A fallen family, really? Zimmo clicked his tongue, tone filled with mock regret. Bayou's expression instantly changed. Her body trembled slightly as she stared at him, color draining from her face. With forced calm, she asked, What are you trying to say? Nothing much, Zimmo replied casually. Just thinking how odd it is. That family, the clan, was wiped out decades ago. Hundreds of them, all killed in battle. But there were rumors that the clan leader's daughter escaped, carrying the legacy of Grand Emperor Bayou. Zimmo's eyes gleamed. And wouldn't you know it? That girl's name was also Bayou. The moment the words left his mouth, Bayou's face went pale. Boom, 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 boom. All 4 of her meridian gates opened at once, and the strength of the desolate meridian realm burst forth. Spiritual energy coiled around her like a dragon, radiating intense pressure. What's the matter? Zimmo asked calmly, unfazed. I was just telling a story. No need to be so jumpy. Who are you? Bayou's voice trembled as she locked eyes with him. My father is the Vice Lord of the true martial sacred ground. Zimmo answered with a light smile. So technically, I'm an official son. True martial sacred ground? A hoarse voice suddenly rang out behind Zimmo. A black-robed elder had appeared silently behind him. Boy, what's your purpose here? The elder asked after a moment's thought, his pressure slowly pressing down on Zimmo. I didn't expect you to still be alive, Zimmo said, turning to the elder as if completely unaware of the growing pressure.